Down 3, 2, 1. So if anybody's just got a message here, they're probably following the Twitter link, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do one better. I'm going to post about this in our guild. So like any man or what I've heard any person in general, I am a terrible multitasker. So I deeply apologize to everyone. It would appear as though our live chat is okay. At least there's nobody clicked on it right away, so nobody's currently watching this. It'll just be the future people that watch this on our YouTube channel. They get to hear all of this awesome stuff. TC has sent me a message, so I'll need to check that here in a second. Let me go ahead and let me mute myself because that's the most maddening thing there is. By the way, Trent, how have you been, dude?
Fine.
Is that game, the 1824, is that coming in soon?
Don't know. It's on its way from Europe.
Oh, well. I guess it just depends on how it was mailed.
It might be here in 4 days. It might be here in a month. Who knows?
Yeah, whenever I bought anything on Amazon Germany, Amazon DE, it always seems to take that 4 to 6 weeks.
Well, Lonnie Orgler, the designer, is sending it to me.
Holy crap, dude. That's awesome.
It's been out of print for a long time, but I've been talking to him a lot online.
Mm-hmm.
And I mentioned that I've wanted to play 1824 for a while, and he's like, I think I might have one more around somewhere. And then a couple days later, he's like, yeah, I found one. You want me to send it to you? I'll send it to you at cost.
Legit, like, okay, dude. Holy crap.
So it's coming my way.
Is that one that he did on his own, or did he do that one together with the other Russian Railroads guy?
I'm not actually sure on that one.
Because there's 1824 and 1837, and I know that we're talking about both of them for the episode that we'll be recording pretty soon. Me and TC are recording that next Monday for the long view. But anyway, the
1837 came first.
Okay.
1824.
Well, actually, Trent, I'd like to get this straight here. Chronologically, 1824 came first.
No, 1837 did. 1824 was intended to shorten it.
So you're telling me the year 1837 jumped ahead of the year 1824 in our calendars?
Well, in terms of game public,
I'm sorry, man.
1824 was meant to condense some elements of 1837 because 1837 has a long mid-game.
Okay.
I would say, and it's a long, lazy mid-game or a long transition from the early game to the mid-game, I would say.
Uh-huh.
I have played 1837. I have not played 1824. When I finished playing 1837, both Kyle Nauman and Tony Fryer said 1824 is a lot like it, but more condensed and probably better.
Huh.
So I was like, since then I've been looking around because I actually enjoyed 1837. So I've been looking around for 1824. So I literally followed Tony's recommendation to find 1824.
And you went and followed it right up to the designer himself.
Yes.
Nice.
And Lonnie is sending me a copy, so there we go.
Am I here? Am I live?
I think you're there. Hey,
Sweet.
TC, looking pretty there, my friend.
Thank you. I look.
What is that? Is that? Hold on. Is that Stumptown?
What
that you're drinking there? Is that Stumptown coffee?
No, it's just my Doctor Who mug.
Doctor Who mug? Is it coffee?
Yes, it's coffee.
It's what kind of coffee though? Hold on. We've
some Hawaiian blend my mother-in-law gave me.
Oh. All right, great. So you drink that kind of coffee, and I'm going to assume that you just play whatever board games they just happen to have in your mother-in-law's closet as well?
No, sure, why not?
I just give you a hard time.
I'm a closet gamer.
You just play whatever's in the closet, right? Whatever's sitting up there. Yeah, and that's why TC's entire game collection is outside of the BGG top 500. It's just whatever's in your mom's closet, right?
Yeah, when you say it's gonna be, I've got at least 2 or 3 games that are like way outside the 500, by a few thousand.
Yeah, like the one that has this game still only got 10 reviews, but hold on, listen, only got 10 ratings. It's owned by 33 people,
including me,
and all of my different ghost accounts, so that I can at least make it look like there's 32 more people that have the game.
Yeah, I have and it was kickstarted.
Yeah. Kickstarted. Didn't fun, but it was kickstarted.
It was kickstarted. So Andy's out in Tulsa?
Yeah, man. He's
Like Tulsa, Oklahoma?
as in the OK, I believe. Yeah, that's unless it must be a beautiful place this time of the year since we're getting like 90-degree temperature here in the upper Midwest. I'm pretty sure Tulsa becomes like the doorway to hell about this.
Yeah, that's my old stomping ground. I was raised in Amarillo, Texas, so that whole High Plains area. It's like an hour and a half away, but Tulsa's where you used to have to go to good concerts.
Oh yeah, that would be like where I lived. You had to drive a ways to get to good concerts. Actually, Des Moines, which is funny because I lived like 3 hours away from Des Moines growing up, and now good concerts are like 45 minutes away. So I got that much closer. Trent, did you ever go? I mean, Trent lived right across the river from me. We grew up like in the same spot of the world in like the place where nobody's from. Trent, where did you go to concerts and stuff? Or is that just something that you didn't do?
Steamboat days.
Steamboat days. Good old Steamboat days in Burlington. Yeah, so you got really close to country. Oh my God, man. So we're not recording yet, but this is going to be on the YouTube thing. Me and my wife Caroline have been taking classes like with a whole bunch of teachers to do renewal credits, and we've started. So they're starting to get a little bit boring for us because we were doing like a lot of them over the summer, like it's in like 12 credit hour, well 6 credit hours, but they're all 2-day classes. Anyway, we started this thing where we will each come up with a line that we want the other person to say, like somehow work it into a conversation, and so. Anyway, like the thing that she made me say, because she knows like I hate country music, and she made me work into a conversation that I said publicly in front of everybody else in the class that Rascal Flatts was my favorite.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, but the thing was like as soon as I said it, somebody else in class is like, oh, my favorite's Carrie Underwood. And so at that point, I was committed. Like, no, at that point I had to be genuine. Like I earnestly believe deep down that Rascal Flatts was my favorite for the rest of that entire class. And Caroline was just sitting there dying because she knows how bad I hate them. Like they're like the combination of like Backstreet Boys and like tear-jerking Adele and like Keith Urban country. It just is sorry to anybody out there who likes Rascal Flatts. I just can't do it.
I know every time someone asks me what's your favorite country band, I go Nashville Pussy, and that's a legitimate band, by the way.
I figured, yeah. So you're from Amarillo. You probably got quite a dose of it growing up.
Yeah, I got traumatized.
in a tailgate.
Oh God, let's not go there. Yeah, Coors Light. And, yeah, you know this. I raised my family in the Pacific Northwest, so there's a reason for that.
About as far as you can get. Yeah, it's starting to creep, man. It's creeping up towards us.
Yeah.
So, beautiful. My wife loves country music. That's the whole reason. Like, we're going to go see Chris Stapleton, but it's just something, that's where we draw the line. I'm pretty sure that's like the biggest difference between us is our taste in music. And hers, she just kind of Pac-Man'd me up with the taste in music. Like, we go see every concert we see is like her favorite music. And I get her to play board games though. So, and I guess, sitting through another country concert is worth it. I guess, Luke Bryan, Kenny Chesney, Casey Musgraves. I actually did kind of like, I guess guilty pleasure.
You're a stronger man than me. The next concert we're going to go see is, up here, the Mystery Science Theater 3000 tour is coming up. I'm going to indoctrinate my children into Tom Servo, Crow, and that whole gang.
Oh man, that's interesting. I didn't even know they did a tour.
I didn't know either till I heard it on the radio. And since they relaunched on Netflix and my kids have been watching it, I'm like, yeah, we're gonna go see these guys. It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, for sure. For absolutely sure. All right, I'm connected to the live chat here, and I'm typing there just so that I can see that you guys hopefully can see that. If anyway, here I can share the link to the pop out. I don't know if it's going to work, but I'm just going to put it in our chat here on the private hangout. You You need to try clicking on that and see if that works.
Is this where you have to like mute it or you get the reverb crap going on?
No. It should just be like a little window that has the live chat. It should not have the actual video.
There we go.
You see that right there? Yo, we're all there. So this way we'll be able to connect with our audience. Looks like we got a person. Hey, we got Anthony here.
I'm logged in as my daughter. Hang on, let me.
Oh, is that? That's you, TC. TC's logged in as his daughter. Hey, TC is gone. Yeah, it's funny. It says, Trent, do you see that in our group chat? You see what it says? It says Kate left the group chat.
Yes, I saw that.
Well, I hope you guys liked meeting Kate. I think TC's going to go put on a different outfit and he'll be call somebody else. All right. So I had a chance to look down the list, and Trent, I think, there's a lot of games on there, man. We got a really, really good response. We got some people that put like 5 or 6 games. Do you have a chance to look through? I mean, that was.
Yeah, I responded a few times.
Let me try that again.
Yeah. So I don't know how we want to divvy up. Hey, TC, here, I'm going to give you one more link here since I love sharing all kinds of links.
Yeah, and if you could reshare that link, I was logged in under my daughter, so I'm using her computer.
Yeah, I know. It was adorable. You're back. Yeah, it's back. It's Kate again. It's still Kate.
Is it? Oh, well, I'll be Kate tonight. I don't care. Maybe it's a controversy. 13-year-old daughter trashes game. I don't know.
Dumps on game hard. Yeah, we'll see. All right, so I just popped those on there. I popped the question here. So TC, we are giving away, and I believe you know about this. I'm like 100% sure you did, because you were there. But anyway, I just put the forum thread there because we're gonna just kind of be glancing at that, and then whatever games you see that are on there, ones that you feel free to mention anything, any causes you want to pick up with other people. I'm very interested.
Is this the one where I entered it? I put my thing and it said you're entered to win a game. I'm like, I didn't want to win a game. I just wanted to enter my thing.
Yeah, that's probably it. So anyway,
strike me from the list. I'm sorry, I didn't realize that.
Well, that's so generous of you. I would like just for everybody to know, TC has generously offered to be stricken from the list, stricken from the list, and just so you know, TC, you did not win.
Oh, sweet.
So, because
well, then
I've already done.
Care. It's dumb.
I already know who's won. I'm just gonna announce it a little bit later on. We had, I believe, there's 39 people that were all signed up, and that was people that were on the post. So the post did say, you had to be on this post. So I had a few people share their games on Twitter when I kind of promoted it on Twitter on my Twitter account. And unfortunately, I'm sorry, I just took people who I knew I could immediately get aligned to on BGG. So if that was your case, just follow us next time on BGG, and keep in there, keep signing up for this next contest, and you'll be a part of it. Anyway, so yeah, I've got that. We're gonna announce that once we get done talking about our favorite games outside the BGG Top 500, and that person will win a copy of Three Kingdoms Redux, and I will ship it to them as well. I'll at least pay the first $15 of shipping, so it'll be just a free game that comes in the mail to you because you have awesome tastes in podcasts. So,
can you send me the link to the list for the questions?
Questions?
The where you sent me this link that people could post questions. I don't have it anymore.
You mean the chat up there? Okay, yeah, sure. It's on our, I guess
the thing with the thing and the thing.
The thing with the thing. There it is. Is the bottom half of the thing with the thing with the thing.
Golden. Okay. Yeah.
Alrighty, guys. We're gonna go ahead and get this show on the road, and we'll go ahead and get this started here in 3, 2, 1. Hello and welcome to The Good, the Bored, and the Ugly, a podcast about board games. I'm your host, Joe Sallin. Tonight, we are not with Andy Dennison, unfortunately, but we do have... And filling in for Andy. Well, he's got some pretty big shoes to fill in, but he's going to do it in some very interesting ways. My actual co-host now on the Longview podcast,
TC Reid. Hi, Joe. Are you ready for tomorrow? It's going to rock.
We get a little bit of practice here. And anyway, Trent's going to be like he's going to be our coach here. He's going to give us some pointers. You know, Trent's been doing this for a while. He was podcasting. I'm pretty sure Trent was podcasting there across the river in Nyota, Illinois, when I was growing up across the river in Fort Madison. When I was a wee one, he was already, you know, playing Spiel des Jahres titles from 1980. What is that one, Trent? Focus?
Yeah, I played Focus when I was a kid. That was the SDJ winner in 1981, I believe.
There you go. Well, yeah, I guess congrats to King Domino. As the time of this recording, it's just been announced that it won Spiel des Jahres here in this last week. I've not played it. What do you think? I should point
out really quick here that the reason I played that when I was a kid because Milton Bradley actually published it in the U.S. You could go to like Walmart and buy it.
So it was designed in Germany, though? I didn't realize that.
Yeah. Well, Sid Saxon.
Oh, it was Sid Saxon.
Yeah, Sid Saxon.
Yeah, that's why.
Good designer. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. So ahead of his time. I feel like in many ways that I think of like almost, I don't know, maybe I just think of my favorite designers as the Sid Saxon of our time. So I feel like almost Martin Wallace. When I play Martin Wallace games from like 15 years ago, I feel like they're kind of like that. Anyway, my dogs obviously agree. That's Bogart. And yes, welcome to my wife who's getting here. I'm sorry, guys. Sorry about that in the background. Anyway, we are here on The Good, the Bored, and the Ugly to, first and foremost, talk about board games. We're going to be reviewing some games for you guys. We've each got a review game that you might actually even know about if you're on YouTube in the comments below. You'll see that in the post description. Anyway, if you're in tune to our Board Game Geek Guild, which if you aren't there, you totally should be there. Just go to guilds, boardgamegeek.com/guild/2173. You'll know that we had an awesome question that was posed by Trent that talk about all your favorite games that are not in the BGG Top 500. Give us why. You know, why do you think that they should be higher up than they are? And anybody who commented on that was automatically entered into a contest to win a copy of one of the best games that is not in the BGG Top 500, and I guess that's my own subjective opinion, but it's called Three Kingdoms Redux. It has been generously donated to us by Game Surplus, our sponsor. And just a quick second about Game Surplus. Check them out, gamesurplus.com. Carmen has amazing customer service. I totally recommend anybody who's looking for the type of service you get from a friendly local game store, but you are maybe in a remote spot, or maybe you just, you know, want to be able to, maybe you like shopping online. Go check out gamesurplus.com, and Carmen will find things that you are looking for. He has a very wide net that he casts to be able to find games. If he doesn't have something in stock, you send him a message, and he will get on that. Anyway, once we get done talking about our topic, we're going to announce the winner of the copy of Three Kingdoms Redux. Then we'll be off to hype games before we bid you adieu. I guess since I mentioned it earlier, I should probably elaborate. TC and I have been picked by Jeff Gamble of the Longview to carry the torch for him off into the sunset. So that I will still be the host, and all my responsibilities for The Good, the Bored, and the Ugly are gonna maintain there. But me and TC are just gonna be starting a little bit of the co-hosting duties. We're gonna be sharing that for the Longview podcast. If you've never checked out the Longview podcast, first of all, how did you hear about my podcast? Because I feel like most of the people that listen to the Longview are the people that came over to my podcast after you know, to The Good, the Bored, and the Ugly. And I mean, obviously, there's quite a few people though that know because of like 18xx Games and Heavy Cardboard and Andy and Trent both field an awful lot of those guys. So that's probably why you're here. And there's somebody who says I'm here in the chat. Hello, or is that you, TC? That's you.
That's me. Hi.
That's you. Okay, so we have multiple versions of TC in our chat right now. Well, anyway, yeah.
Yeah, why be one person? We can be many. I mean, hey. That's what the internet's for, right?
I feel like to be able to play, you and Trent have something in common in that. I think to be able to play the games that you guys play and enjoy some of the games you guys play alongside of other games you guys play, I almost feel like you have to have two identities.
Really? Wow, does my wife know about this?
What do they say? Isn't there like a quote like that you'll wear many hats? And I guess a man, all the world's a stage, the Shakespeare, like a man will fulfill 7 roles. Maybe it's just that you guys are stuck in multiple ones of those. What do you think about that, Trent?
I think it has a lot more to do with who I'm playing with. I play games with a wide variety of people. I'm not going to play Virgin Queen with my 7-year-old.
Oh,
well, not till he's older.
He's missing out. You are. I don't know what the listeners think about this, but this might be abuse. This might be abuse to keep such a great game from to. It's almost like you're depriving him of food and water. What do you think, TC?
He would not last through a 9-hour game, unfortunately.
TC, you ever played Virgin Queen?
Oh God, yes! I got to play Virgin Queen and Here I Stand, and I am greatly anticipating my upgrade for Here I Stand that's due out this fall.
The P500 one, or
it's the 500th anniversary edition. They're upgrading. You can get the 500th anniversary edition by itself, or get an upgrade kit to it. And I've got the upgrade kit coming.
Oh, sure, because you already have Here I Stand. Trent, are you on that one too?
Yep.
you guys, yeah, I've got 2 people who are probably like, you guys probably know every single bit of the P500 there on GMT. Probably know every game that's getting a mounted map, every game that's being
I would say yes, but Time of Crisis did slip through my fingers. I didn't P500. I had to get that through other means, to my great shame.
Oh, well, shame.
Yeah, I know it's bad.
Bad. Yeah, when you need a book to slap yourself on the head.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I'd never considered that, how like much overlap you guys share because of your both being such Omnigamers. So that's pretty exciting. I'm interested now to hear what your guys' perspectives are going to be on some of the games that we talk about here. So anyway, that is, I guess it's about time here for us to get into reviewing games, because that's that's what we kicked this off with. So
I'm really curious to hear Trent's. I am dying to hear what Trent's going to talk about when I saw what he posted. So,
I am too. Yeah, I think I'm ready. Yeah, I'm ready to let my voice have a little bit of a rest here. Trent, are you ready to go?
Yes. All right. So we're going to start off with my review here, and my review is going to be First Martians, which is the latest game from Portal Games, is designed by Ignacy Trzewiczek. And this is meant to be a follow-up to their earlier title, Robinson Crusoe. And if you played Robinson Crusoe, you will find a lot of similarities with First Martians. So in this game, it's a co-op game for 1 to 4 players, and it actually works at all those player counts. In my experience, I have tried it with a couple different player counts, and it seemed to work with all of my, and I don't see it being any different with different player counts. So I think this is very flexible from 1 to 4. Okay. You're essentially you're the first people on Mars. You're astronauts there. There's already been a robot that landed before you that built a structure for you to live in. And when you get there, your job is, depending on the scenario, either to explore part of the Martian surface, or to simply make sure you have enough food to be sustainable going forward, or whatever. The game comes with 6 different scenarios, as well as 2 different campaigns that each seem to have about 4 scenarios each in them. And,
whoa, that's a bunch.
Yeah.
It's a dollop.
And I get the feeling that it's like Robinson Crusoe, that it would be very easy to issue more scenarios, so that should they choose, because the scenarios are essentially 1 piece of cardboard front, and it has 2 scenarios on it because it's double-sided. So the 6 scenarios are essentially 3 pieces of cardboard. Now, this is an app-assisted game, which means you have to go download an app from the App Store to take care of some of the mechanisms within the game. This essentially mostly just replaces the adventure deck from Robinson Crusoe in my experience. So throughout the game, you have each of the characters has 2 pawns, and there's a bunch of different spots on the board with which you can place them. Most of the spots, it's just like Robinson Crusoe. If you put 1 pawn on the spot, you have a little bit of randomness up towards it, meaning you have to roll some dice and see whether or not you're successful, and some bad effects can happen. And occasionally, a good effect can happen. If you put both of your pawns on the spot, it's guaranteed to be successful. Now, there's a whole bunch of, like I said, there's a whole bunch of different spots on the board, and they all do different things. They all involve upgrading different parts of your bay, or sending a rover out on the Martian surface to find stuff, or growing more food, or getting more energy, or different things like that. I'm not going to go through all the spaces because it would be long and boring and no one would really care. Suffice it to say, mostly what you're trying to do is fulfill whatever the requirements of your particular scenario is. So some of them are going to have you doing more things than others, depending on the scenario. The introductory one mostly is about building a new farm. And to do that, you have to build up some steps to get there. You have to build a solar panel first, and you have to build another component first before you can really build the farm. And then once you build the farm, it starts off like in bad shape, basically. You just finally get the door open, and you have to repair it and build it up. That's essentially how you win that first scenario, is by doing that. Other scenarios are, another one that I played is very heavily into exploring the Martian surface, which is done by a tile reveal type of mechanism. You have like a little map on there that has 3 rings of tiles that go out from you. So you move your little rover out from where you start, and you start revealing tiles. The further away you get, the harder it is to get out there, because to pass through a tile to explore an outer one, you have to have all the bad effects of the inner one as well, because they all have negative effects on them. But the outer ones also have better rewards for getting out there, generally. Not always, but generally. And some of them are oriented towards exploring. And there's all kinds of different scenarios. I've read through all of them, and I've tried 2 of them. Okay, so there's a lot of variety in the game. It's a lot like Robinson Crusoe. What do I think of this? I have some very mixed feelings on this game.
Ooh.
I'm gonna start off with what I didn't like. So after I get done with this, you're gonna think I hate it. First of all, that rulebook is rubbish. That rulebook is terrible.
Yeah, I've heard the rulebook's bad.
It is really bad. It is horribly organized. It doesn't explain what's going on most of the time. You're looking at symbols on the board, and you're like, I have no idea what this means. To interpret what a tile means, you have to look in like 4 or 5 different places in the rulebook.
Yikes.
There's no clear game flow of what you do from turn to turn. The book's kind of organized in terms of a game flow, but it just doesn't really work. It needed a complete reboot of the rulebook and a complete rewrite. A rulebook is decent as reference, maybe, at best. It does not teach you the game. I gotta say, flat out, if you're gonna play this game, don't bother learning it from the rules. Go watch Rodney's Watch It Play video once. Try playing it, then go back and watch it again, and then you'll be good to play it. That's what I did.
Oh, man, that sounds like the original Robinson Crusoe.
It gets even better. Rodney's Watch It Play video is 50 minutes long.
Oh, yeah. I've got about 15 minutes through it, and it's like, whoa.
Yes. Yeah.
Did your eyes start glazing over?
His videos are usually, about less than 20 minutes? I mean, sometimes they get up there about 25 or so, but like I think it might be his longest live play video.
It's because this game is complicated. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of moving parts. And I don't mind that, but in order for that game to work, you need a well-written rulebook that explains the parts, and that doesn't really exist here. I've kind of gotten used to GM2 rulebooks, which are my high water mark for complex games rulebooks, and this does not cut it. This rulebook is bad. I mean, just rely on the Watch It Play video and use this for reference once you know what's going on. Okay, second issue I have. It's this app-assisted game, which I don't like in concept, but the app assistance in this game could have been handled by a deck of cards.
Really?
It doesn't do anything that could... I'll amend that. 2 decks of cards could have handled everything in the app. There's really no other need for this. To clarify the question in the chat, the game I am talking about is First Martians, the new release from Portal Games, because someone asked what game I am talking about the bad rulebook for.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to the app. The app is just replaces 2 deck of cards. It has the flimsiest storyline in it, and the storyline the storyline is explained in the scenario sheet. Like, you could read the scenario sheet and get all their storyline stuff from it, and then you could just use 2 deck of cards to do the random events, no problem. Okay, so the app, I don't know why it exists. I don't know why they didn't just. I think maybe they wanted to be on the it's app assisted, as though that's like a good thing, which it's not.
Yeah.
It replaces 2 decks of cards. Things that were handled by decks of cards in Robinson Crusoe are now handled by an app, and this for no good reason.
Oh my goodness.
Did they charge you extra for the app, or is it just...
No,
okay, good.
Yes, it's free. So aside from, and I'll say this much, the game is very opaque. It is not obvious to you what you should be doing the first few times you play it at all. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know the ramifications of anything. First time you play this, play it on easy. I'm telling you right now. Even then you're going to lose, and you're not really going to understand why. I will say I played through the. Let's see. I played it now. I finally have beaten the introductory scenario on easy a few times, or I mean, after playing it a few times. But I will say the first couple plays, I had no idea what was going on. Even now, it still feels very opaque and occasionally fairly random. You can mitigate the randomness, but how the gears interlock is still kind of opaque is just the right word for it. There's a lot going on. It feels like one of those things where you turn a gear on one side of a machine and then it turns on the other side. And you're not really clear as to why it's turning. It's like I actually think this is more complex than Robinson Crusoe. It felt that way to me.
Okay.
In terms of like how things interconnect within the game. Now I like that, but I can see this being a big turnoff for other gamers. There are some gamers I can see hating this game. It is not Pandemic, people. Do not expect Pandemic out of this. Pandemic is very clear why things are happening and why things are going bad. And this one, it's like there's so many layers of things going bad that's often hard to diagnose where things are truly going wrong, and it's interesting. So what do I like about it? After all that learning and all that figuring out and all that opacity and stuff, there really is a good game underneath it, and I'm very excited to play more scenarios. Like I said, I want to play this game more. I am scared to death to teach it to someone else. I don't want to do that at all. But I'm very excited to play it more. I really want to play this game more. Because there is a good game underneath all that. If you go through all the effort of learning it and figuring it out, you're going to want to play it a bunch. Because there are really interesting things going on there. It's one of those that's really now started to really scratch like my sense of curiosity and seeing how the game works and how the scenarios come together. I want to do all the scenarios. I want to do the campaign book. I'm sure I'm going to be begging for more scenarios. The problem is, it took me 4 or 5 hours to get to that point. And most people aren't going to want to invest the time for this. They just are not. And another thing is, it's not that different from Robinson Crusoe. You can really feel the Robinson Crusoe in this. So if you're expecting a whole new experience from Robinson Crusoe, you'll get it kind of. But I really liked Robinson Crusoe, so I appreciate a lot of the things going on in this. I like the theme, which probably helps. But man, the rule book was just bad, and the app is needless. Take away those things, and the game is pretty good.
Is it a solitaire game, or can you play with more people?
You can play it 1 to 4.
Solitaire.
You can play it 1 to 4.
1 to 4. Okay, 1 to 4.
Yep.
So Trent, question. You'd mentioned that it scales really well. I've noticed when taking pieces apart in the game, because I've got this. I tried to read the rule book like 2 or 3 times. Oh my goodness! Yeah, it is like it's like I keep on turning backwards. I feel like I'm spending more time turning pages backwards than I am turning pages forwards when I read it. It's like I need to go back and read. Like there's like 8 different buildings that are listed in one subsection. I'm like, wait a minute, was this one of those 8? Let me go back and check. And they're like hidden in a paragraph. It is really tough. I've got 2 statements here, and I want you to evaluate the truth in them. And they're just random statements that I'm throwing out, so I have no idea. I just want to hear from you. First of all, First Martians, whatever it's called, Adventures on the Red Planet. First Martians is like The Martian, like Mark Watney, the book, which was made into the movie with Matt Damon. It's like that, the game.
I would very much agree with that. I think, but again, it's once you get to past the point where you get the rules, then it feels like that. It very much feels like you're on Mars alone and things are going bad and you're trying to figure out why and things keep going bad. That's what the scenarios I played feels like.
Which kind of is like the movie. It's like as soon as you start to feel comfortable with Mark Watney, they're like, oh, he's doing good now. And then something else causes all kinds of problems. So anyway, I'm not going to spoil any of that if you haven't seen it. Next question I had that I wanted you to talk about is, so a lot of the comments that you made about this really reminded me of just my experience. I had to play the beginning scenario of Robinson Crusoe, Adventures on the Cursed Island. I played that probably 10 times. And I was entertained by just that scenario, playing it 10 times. My first 5 to 6 games were just figuring it out. And it was like, at that point, I was watching the Ricky Royal video, which was like, I think back then, YouTube only allowed you to do like 10-minute videos. And Ricky Royal had, I believe, like 12 of them. Like 12 10-minute videos. And you had to like wait, you know, like wait for the next one to buffer and load. Like this is, you know, this is like forever ago, like as in 4 years ago. But anyway, I remember that feeling. And so my statement that I want you to evaluate is whether or not this game is basically just the same. And I think you kind of touched on that. But is it, like, what are some of the game systems that are changed?
You feel like, I feel like this game, I feel like in Robinson Crusoe right off the bat, part of what you have to do is explore to find the resources you need.
Yeah, you got all kinds of good stuff in that. Like those exploration tokens were amazing.
Yeah, and this, it feels like the exploration part is you've got to do it sometimes, but it's toned down. A lot of what you're doing is within the base and you already have access to it. This game feels more like everything is falling apart. You've got to keep things from completely just falling apart because things are falling apart. Whereas in Robinson Crusoe, you're exploring a little bit and then you kind of have to find a few things to survive and then you explore a little bit more. And then this feels like, this one is like, you don't need to explore, but sometimes the scenario objective makes you. Mostly you're just trying to survive.
Yeah, the weird thing about Robinson Crusoe is that, like, similar to this game, the actual map in Robinson Crusoe is a fairly small part of the board. And that's kind of the same thing here. Like, you know, it's about, maybe takes up about a quarter, a little bit more of the board than a quarter of the board. Yeah. But the difference is in Robinson Crusoe, like, about another quarter of the board is just all these potential inventions you might invent. And so they're not built. They're just like, you know, essentially you've got all these blueprints for them that you could build. In this game, instead of that, where you've got all these things that don't exist but could exist, you've got all these different working systems. And that would make sense to me, Trent, that you're saying that basically you're doing a lot of fixing what's already there that's broken down as opposed to like crafting things for the first time like you were in Robinson Crusoe.
Yes. And I'll say this much, more than Robinson Crusoe, it feels like the variable player powers that you have are absolutely vital to making it work. You've got to play what abilities you have, period. Because each character basically comes, honestly, with like 4 special abilities each. And you've got to be able to play them together in synergy to be able to make this work.
Don't you have to sort of unlock them too as you play? Like you only start with like one, but they're like a set of cards, then you gotta, or do they just...
If you do the campaign, that's how it works. If you do a scenario, you just get them. Because I think the scenarios are harder than the campaign, at least the early stages of the campaign. I think the early stages of the campaign are... I expect at least one of the campaign, the first stage is easier. I'm not sure of that, but because I haven't even started a campaign. But go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Because it felt to me like in the scenarios I have played, you've got to have those abilities unlocked or it's borderline. I mean, it's almost impossible to be able to do them because they rely a lot off of using those abilities and passing things back and forth, mostly the morale tokens.
Yeah, absolutely.
Those are vital. Using those for different abilities is like a big key to what you're doing to even survive. Like the introductory scenario, you basically have to come up with a bunch of spare parts. And the only real way you can do that without some luck is having one of the characters that's there that can make spare parts with a bunch of the morale tokens.
Oh.
He's vital. You need him.
What if you don't play with him then? I mean, I know that this one plays 1 to 4. Here, there's like 4 different things that give you tokens. Like in the original game, you had like NPCs that you had limited control over. Well, I mean, you had control over them, but you didn't have to feed them. You had like a dog, and then you had Friday. In this one, I think there's 4 different versions of that. There's like 4 different sort of robots or stuff. Or
yes, okay. And they work in different ways. I mean, I think you could get by at least in the first scenario. You rely heavily on this one guy. In another scenario, I think you rely heavily on another character. I think part of it is figuring that out. That's like the puzzle of each scenario.
Like this is the guy that I need to be.
Yeah, like I may be spoiling a little bit, but I think I have found so far that there's like a key character you need to focus on in each scenario. And what I have played. And then it's like, how can you make this guy do his thing? Or girl, because it's actually perfectly gender balanced. So it
it is. Last question here. Last question is, you'd mentioned, I understand and agree with you that like there's no reason they didn't just put 2 more decks of cards in this and make it so there's no app. Is there a potential? Because what I was most excited for in the app was that there was going to be it was going to be ways that the campaign was tracked in the app that would then make it like, that we're going to make it kind of special. And, is there things that the app could take advantage of that would only be present in the campaign that we need to play a campaign to know?
I think that it could track a fairly complex board state. I think it could definitely do that, but I haven't played around with that. And again, I think that there are probably still ways to do that without an app. I'll say the individual scenarios, the app just seems like extraneous.
Like really tacked on, but you're forced to use it because they didn't want to put in 2 more decks of cards.
Yes.
Okay. TC, have you any experience with RC? Not RC, Mars RC, Mars Robinson Crusoe.
No, I had the opportunity to try the Z-Man edition of Robinson Crusoe.
I have that.
And I looked at it and I went, oh, look, Navajo Wars.
What?
And I kind of dumped that for. But my question, I really want to ask Trent, where does this game fall in terms of solitaire games you enjoy to play? Because, I mean, Mansions of Madness 2nd Edition is a great game to play, solitaire, because that app literally runs the game. It doesn't sound like the app's needed at all for this one. Navajo Wars is like straight up one of my favorite solo games because there's so much in that one. But I was just curious in terms of solitaire games, where would this fall on the spectrum for you?
I have a feeling that I'm going to go through a phase where I play this a lot and burn through the scenarios, and then I'll put it in a box and put it on the shelf and not touch it again until there's an expansion. I have a feeling once I figured out how to do a scenario, I'm on to the next one, and I probably won't replay an older scenario.
Yeah. Okay. And that's unfortunate about the rule book. It seems like we're all having bad experiences with rule books. Last Saturday, we decided to start our Seafall campaign. Oh my God, that rule book is bad.
TC, there has been enough time for all the word to get out on Seafall. I don't have an ounce of pity in my heart for you.
I'm committed. I want to see this thing. It's like it's like a bad movie. Oh, don't go see the new Mummy movie. It's terrible. Where's it showing? I gotta see this.
Wow, you are
the human centipede's horrific. Yeah, I'm gonna see that too. Yeah, I saw Battlefield Earth in the theater. Okay, so it was so bad I wanted to see it for myself.
So what you're saying is really what we need to use on you is reverse psychology.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like if I like a game, I tell you I hate this game, and you have to play it.
I'm just like, ooh, that must be good.
That works on me with certain reviewers. I'm not gonna name any names, but it might rhyme with schmom schmassel. Anyway.
But yeah, I'm really curious to try First Martian. I want to give it a shot, but it sounds like I have got Carissa, my wife. If she gets a hold of a rulebook and it's bad, she will just. We're not even playing this. So it sounds like I need to take point on this one.
Yeah, you do, and rely on Rodney's video. It's the only way I figured this out. I mean, my wife's so anal with rule books is that when we were playing Seafall, she was making her own index to that rule book. So when we played it again, we knew where to refer things to. I am not making that up.
Wow. So, Trent, that was a really great intro. That's got me really pumped up to play First Martians. And and all 14 of its scenarios, what it sounds like. That's exciting to me that there's those 2 little campaigns that each have 4 each of them. I mean, they might not be the same as old RC was, old Robinson Crusoe, but I'm really pumped for this. And I appreciate the cautionary measures. Anyhow,
I gotta be honest with you. The way I hope they expand this is I would like to see them have a small expansion that had about 10 of those scenario cards on it, and then update the app accordingly. I'd love it. That'd be fantastic. I mean, you can charge that $10 for that, and that'd be an expansion I would definitely buy for this.
Yeah.
Because the scenarios are, once I've got it figured out, I want to do all the scenarios. I want to do them now.
Much like you, Trent, I especially like it when they just keep on releasing things like just little by little. I mean, let's think about it. Here's a weird thought, right? If they made this base game come out with 24 scenarios, and then you could just play through all of them if you wanted to, but it was all at once, would that be as exciting as if they made it come out with 14 now and then announced that 10 were coming out in 6 months?
It's probably better marketing for them to do it that way.
Yeah, I mean, TC, Trent's favorite games are like the LCG model. Like, isn't your favorite solo games are like Arkham Horror LCG?
I am so addicted to that Arkham Horror LCG. I swore off LCGs and collectible card games. I sounded like Andy. They're crap. I don't want to deal with it. And then I got Arkham Horror LCG, and I am just like, bzzz, I'm in.
Cracking packs.
Oh my God, I'm cracking packs. I'm building decks. I'm like, oh, we can do this. It's bad. It's bad.
I think Trent's right with you there, right, Trent?
Yeah.
All right, well, that was a review there, and a pretty long discussion. We spent a little bit of time there on Mars Robinson Crusoe, but I think the game earned it, and I think, Trent, that was a really good way to kick off our reviews here. I'm actually going to move right along here to UTC because I have my game is actually – I'm actually going to try to use a segue here, and I guess I've already ruined it, but, you know, I like my jokes just like I like my segues, thoroughly explained. Yeah, I just keep reusing that. I tweeted something like that. I find a joke and then reuse it a lot. My wife and I both do it. It's why we get along so well, because things just stay funny to us. Anyway, TC, you've got a game here that I've had a little bit of a chance to play, but you have played it way more. Tell us about this new hotness from GMT.
Okay, new hotness from GMT. Let me make sure I'm saying this right. It is Time of Crisis, the Roman Empire in Turmoil, 235 to 284 AD, from Ray Farrell and Brad Johnson. Now, Trent, sounds like you're a pretty big GMT fan. Are you familiar with the CDG systems?
Yes.
Have you played Sword of Rome?
No, I have not. I don't think I played that one.
Okay, Sword of Rome is a fantastic 5-player card-driven game system from these same designers that me and my wife, everybody, we've played it. We loved it. It is like super out of print, but that's beside the point. You know, most things, the GMT, if there's 2 years out and it's not Twilight Struggle, they're not reprinting it, or Coin. But so this is the same designers who did that. But unlike Sword of Rome is not a CDG, it is a deck building game. Now, I don't know how this slipped past my radar because I'm usually all over the P500 and I'm watching it going. And this one slipped by me. The only reason I got to play it is one of my friends from my gaming group, Steven, he P500'd it, forgot about it, saw it charged, and it got shipped to him.
Just a quick second here. We've now mentioned like 10 acronyms in the last 5 seconds. Because we have a CDG that's a DBG from GMT that was P500s.
Okay, let me rewind. A CDG is a card-driven game, which the most popular game of that format is probably arguably Twilight Struggle, but it was originated in an Avalon Hill game called We the People by Mark Herman. Which
that's what I'm
Mark Herman's got a pretty good. He did Combat Commander.
No, Combat Commander was Brad Jensen.
I'm sorry. Is it Chad or Brad?
Chad Jensen.
Chad. Okay. Oh yeah. So I'm sorry. What was it? Okay. I've already messed this up. Your turn. You guys' turn. You guys.
Mark Herman is Washington's War. He did Empire of the Sun. Churchill, which is fantastic.
Oh yeah, Mark Herman is like Judd Vance.
Play
Judd Vance
Churchill.
Is a pretty vocal wargamer on BGG, and I'm pretty sure that's like his #1 designer of all time.
Yeah, he's accessible. It's really interesting. But anyway, the card-driven system is basically what they did is they took the hex battle system and they put the cards with the events, the cards with numbers to execute, and the events on them, so you can choose either or. And then they got, what was the one after that? Hannibal. There's a Hannibal game that's really popular that uses
Rome
that.
Versus Carthage, and they just kickstarted that one, which, by the way, P500 is like GMT's own personal company form of Kickstarter.
Yeah, the P500 is, I think they have to get more than 500 orders, but originally, once they got 500 orders, they would go ahead and print it. And you didn't have to pay ahead of time. You know, you got the game when it charged and you got it, and it was shipping. So it was a little different.
It's now honestly more like about P800 or P700.
Yeah. I don't know what the number is now, but P500 just stuck, I guess.
Well, it's such a cool system. And actually, I was recently asked, there was a recent article on the top 7 board game publishers, and this guy wrote, and I'm sorry, I'm just going to blast it here. It was the worst article, one of the worst articles I could ever imagine. It listed like Days of Wonder, Z-Man, WizKids.
Well, just say Asmodee at this point. Just say Asmodee.
I think like 3 of the companies were all just Asmodee branches. The only one that deserved to be there was FFG, Fantasy Flight. Everything else was terrible. And so I actually plugged GMT on that. I'm not a big GMT. I'm not a big war gamer. That's not generally my wheelhouse, but like the way GMT publishes their stuff, the way that they make their rule books like comprehensive, it might not always be easy to learn a game, but you know you're going to be able to figure it out once you get into the thick of it. Like it is, like they design that, they just do such an excellent job there. And their P500 system, there's like no other company that does something just like that. Really, it to me is amazing.
And everybody that's involved with GMT, the designers, the publishers, they are very approachable people. I mean, they go out of their way and you talk to you. I met Harold Buchanan through them, Mark Herman, Volko. I've actually talked to him a bit. They're all, man, just talking to these guys is like sitting in a classroom and just listening to a lecture. It's just, anyway, back to Time of Crisis.
My classroom, of course. My classroom, because I'm a high school teacher. You should, yeah.
So what Time of Crisis is doing that I think is what's really grabbed my attention about it, it's a deck building game with area control on the board. And what this game does that I've never seen a deck builder do is you choose your hand as you draw. So it's not like Dominion or what, Star Trek Frontiers or any of those where you draw your hand, you're like, hang on, guys. I gotta sit here for like 4 minutes and figure out how I'm going to mitigate this junk. No, you actually pick out your cards you want to use for your turn, and that one simple change in deck building is huge. It was amazing. So, what you're doing in Time of Crisis is you start with a starting hand of cards, and your cards execute different actions on the board depending on the color, and it's really easy because red cards are military, blue cards are political, and yellow cards are populous. And everything's listed out on the sheet. It's real straightforward. You draw your hand, and then you want to try to get, and the goal of the game is to hold Rome as long as you can. Because once you get into Rome and Italia, you're not going to be in there for very long. Because they're just going to get dogpiled out of this thing. And it's just a constant. This game is just punching people in the face. You have literally one round to do something that's not going to upset someone, and then it is just game on. It just the accelerator hits the floor, and if you're just in your corner doing stuff, you're losing. There is just no way about it. And wow, even learning it took us like 3 to 4 hours. But I played this game 5 times. I have yet to play it correctly.
Really? What did you guys mess up?
Because we keep missing rules, and then they're right there. They're straightforward. Like
it's not that long. It's like only 12-page rule book.
Yeah, it's not that difficult. But little things like when we did the setup, we'd set all the provinces to 1. Except Italia gets set to whatever the total is for the neutral armies. Yeah. So we set everything at 1. And we're like, well, how do you get this guy out of it goes up to 4. Oh, we start at 8 guys. Whoops. Okay, let's scratch that play. Then we discovered that when you buy cards, we got the part where you pay the cost. Like if you're in 2 provinces, you can buy a 2 card for 2. If you have 3 provinces, you can buy a 3 card for 3. But if you're in a 2 province and you want a 3 card, you can still buy it for 6.
Yeah, you have to pay double.
Yeah, but each additional card after your first one is +1 to the price.
+1, yeah. So you can't.
So you buy your second card is +2. You buy your third card is +3. We're like, well, okay, we messed that up. And we get so into the game, we'd like forget to roll the event because we're like so excited, like how we're going to execute like all this on the board. We're like, hey, you forgot to roll your event. Oh crap! Yeah, hang on, gotta go back and do that. Or we forget to like pick up the Castras and the. What's the other one? The Castras and Quester. Yeah, we'd forget. But even not doing it all necessarily correctly, it's still a game I want to play. This is the game I wanted Mythotopia to be. I really think, because what Mythotopia was missing for me was a strong theme, and this nails it. I mean, you don't even have you're Rome. You want to be an emperor. You want to try emperor as long as you want. You want to try to get legacy points. Pretty straightforward. You can teach it pretty quick. You can. It's great. It's up there for game of the year right now for me. Whoa. We're going to see how this is going to hold up, but and what's really funny is I just got finished playing my first game of Lisboa.
Look, that was a harrowing experience, maybe.
Well, I wanted to talk about it, but right now people ask me about. I'm like, what was it like? I'm like, well, I don't know. I think I get hit by a semi.
You only played it once, dude. Yeah, it's right now. You're in shock still.
Yeah, and that game has so many levers, and you pull, like you were saying, Trent, games where you like pull levers and I don't know what's going to happen here and this, and I did this, and I set up this other guy to like just rake in wig points. I don't know what a wig point is, but apparently it's what you need to win the game. All I can tell you for certain is that game is blue, and I may have a little issue with like how difficult you can like. There's like 4 different ways to do one action in that game. Literally 4 different ways to do one action. And it seems to me that you can pretty much do anything you want in that game. It's just not going to be as efficient if you do it a certain other way.
Yeah.
So,
well,
yeah.
most of Vital's games are kind of like that. There tends to be some more player-driven things. I'm not sure where exactly Lisboa stands around there.
And I wanted more out of the theme because the destruction of Lisbon.
It's Lisbon, yeah.
Lisbon, yeah, because that was
your rubble
huge.
cubes, though. That's what it's
Philosophically, you had Voltaire coming out. You had Immanuel Kant there. That was. I mean, it was
awesome how many amazing things were happening in Italy in the 200 to 300 AD, right?
And that event hit during a Roman holiday. So everybody thought that was an act of God. And it really shook things up politically, religiously. I mean, there's so much there, and I'm just like,
well, it was like an earthquake followed by a fire, followed by a tsunami. It was like, it was just crazy.
Immanuel Kant was like, he was the first one to try to, if I remember my science right, he was trying to explain earthquakes away from it being the wrath of God. And I think he said it was like something about a cave, not seismic place, but it was like, I mean, seismology came out of all this. And you know, and I'm just like, dude, okay. So, but I can't comment because I want to play it at least 8 more times.
I agree, dude. I don't have it. I think Trent's probably going to be getting it soon. You're getting that one soon, right, Trent?
Which one?
Lisboa.
Yes,
we kind of veered off into Lisboa territory here.
Yeah. I wasn't sure whether you're asking about Time of Crisis or Lisboa.
But back to Time of Crisis.
Back to Time of Crisis.
It's a fantastic game, and it, just comparing with Lisboa, it's interesting because like GMT games are usually known for like complex, heavy war games, and Time of Crisis is like super streamlined, super straightforward what you need to do. And there's a few other GMT games I played recently that do that. And it seems like these Euro games are just like blowing up and like going crazy. I'm like, what's going on? I mean, I'm supposed to be the guy with the complex, heavy war games, and okay, mine's actually can play fast. Someone was playing an 18xx game and finished before we finished Lisboa. Okay.
I thought it was really cool to see Vital actually at Origins teaching it. He had been flown in by Eagle Griffin, and he was there to teach his own game, which is the vote of confidence. He said he thinks it's his. Well, he said it is his best game. Is obviously that's the way he feels. So
CO2 so good. CO2.
Interesting.
CO2.
What do you? Well, yeah, we just keep going back to Lisboa.
Anyway, Time of Crisis. I'll end Time of Crisis. It's going to be hard to find. You can still get it through GMT. It's $65 by shipping. But if you have any type of interest in deck building and area control and punching people in the face, know that it's hyper aggressive. I know a lot of people don't like those games, so you better put on your pants and take it because it's going to be awesome. I can't. It's great. I'm going to play this at least 10 more times. Okay, we can go back to Lisboa.
Well, I have a few thoughts about Time of Crisis. My initial thoughts here, because I've only played it once, and I definitely am going to give it another shot, and I'm going to give it probably multiple ones after that. The more that you're talking, though, there, TC, I'm wondering, I know Andy's got a copy of this, Trent's got a copy of this. I'm wondering, I think of all of us, I bet it'll end up being Trent who's the most comfortable with it. I really doubt that Andy is going to like, especially you used one word, which is almost like dropping the F-bomb in front of Andy. And TC, I'll let you guess which one that was.
King of the Hill? Aggressive?
Streamlined. That's it right there. Andy's okay with all the other things. Everything else you mentioned is fine, but he's not going to like that. He's not going to like that it's streamlined. And I think that the system itself is so new. It's so novel that I don't see it as being so much streamlined as just being like, it's like a newly built structure. I think that there's going to be, here's the way that I feel just about Time of Crisis in a nutshell. And that is that it is a really amazing system. And I think the best game to come from this system is not yet released. And I don't know if that kind of like gives a little bit of the way I feel about it, but that's because here's what I think, TC. I love the things that you mentioned. I love that its lineage is like it feels like card-driven games, but they've added deck building to it. I love that you can build your deck intentionally, and not only that, but you can actually choose your cards every round. So you choose your starting hand.
Yeah.
And you choose. It's like a game called Rococo, the dressmaking game.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Except
yeah, that was. Except yeah, this is like conflict driven. But every time that you build, you start the game with a really simple deck that has no special abilities on any of the cards. There's just 3 different types of currency which get used for different sorts of operations. So it's kind of like those CDG games that you were talking about, TC. So you're using these points, like you've got yellow points, which tend to be like, building up economics to give you more income, or doing things like hiring militia to defend your cities, which cannot move. Your militias stay in that area.
It's increasing your Senate track is what your yellow is used for. Buildings. Don't forget your buildings.
Yeah, you build buildings. So like you're sort of like development. And then you've got 2 other ones that are similar. There's blue and there's red. Red is like military, which every time you do anything, you have to spend that military resource. The blue one is more about how you actually sort of like take control of provinces, because you're not just going to go in with an army and be like, mine. You are going to have to actually be elected. Like this is an entire empire that had its own structure to it, and you have to play within that structure. You can't just go around like you're in, these post-colonial, like previous colonies, and do a coup d'etat and just immediately be, the top guy. You can't just do that with military force. Here, you've got to use the Senate, and the Senate is how you take control of territories. The more territories you get points, like in Small World. Every territory you control gives you points. And so you're actually earning points at the end of every one of your turns. It really reminds me of Small World in its structure that way. And I know that's probably a terrible comparison.
No,
for the people
Small World is a great game. I have no problem with that.
Well, these are the things I love about the game. What I've talked about so far is what I really love. I think that the different structure here, the way that you're building your deck, you're choosing your cards, the cards that you put into your deck have immediate events that are all going to be like helpful to you. Very, very cool. There's like a different one printed on every type of card. So you got 2, 3s, and 4s in every color, and every 2 has the same event on it of gold. Gold 2s are a specific type of event. So there's 9 different events, and these come out, and these events are really impactful. They can be very, very, very good. I even like that there's the flavor on one of them where the highest blue card, you are literally erasing. It's only useful if you use this card when you take control of Rome, and you use it to erase the previous emperor.
Yeah, you're erasing his memory. He goes down in victory points, but you take mobs in your provinces because the people don't like it when you just like shut out the previous emperor and just erase them from existence.
Yeah, I love that part of it. I really love that part of it. And I love everything that's tied to this system of buying cards and using your points from cards. I love that. I do. I love the way that the board's set up. It reminds me, there's Mare Nostrum. There's tons of games like that use this Mediterranean battleground as just such a source of intrigue. And it's so cool for that. And I'm going to go ahead now and I got to say a few words about it, because these to me like are what make me think this system needs a game that's like its killer app, because this is such a great system, and it has a few things that are keeping it in game design structures that I think of as being about 10 plus years old. And that is, first of all, at the beginning of every round, you roll a 2 dice, and that tells you what event you get. This
or not,
or you might not get an event. But this to me feels like Settlers of Catan. It feels a lot like Settlers of Catan, because every type of, you got all these different tribes that can attack you.
Barbarians.
And so they're barbarian tribes. And so you got one barbarian tribe hits on 6s, one barbarian tribe hits on 8s. You got one that hits on like 3s and 5s, one that hits on like 9s and 11s. And if you notice, these are all like, if you do the little dots on the Catan map, like an 8 and a 6 is each like the 5 dot, happen more, so they're basically trying to balance out to where if the dice roll, if you had a dice deck, these would come out in equal proportion, because like they are probably going to come out the same way using probability. However, the game that we played, I was relatively untouched by barbarians. I was next to the barbarians that hit on 6s and 8s. And I literally, I'm not kidding you here, there was 2 6s and 1 8 rolled the entire game. these barbarians kind of built up and then just never came for me. So I just got untouched by barbarians. I was then able to, because I had nothing else bothering me, and every other player was dealing with not only barbarians, but events that increased the effectiveness of those barbarians by like adding barbarian leaders. So they were all distracted. Like I had 2 buffer states that were both getting smoked by barbarians. And I was just sitting there like, I'm going to take control of Rome, if that's cool. And then I just kind of wrote out the Emperor because they were just dealing with these sort of crises of barbarians at home. There's ways that you can really manipulate the barbarians. You do get points for killing them. But man, that aspect of the game really rubbed me the wrong way. I want that to be tied to the deck building system as well. I want there to be certain cards that when you play them, give you like barbarians, or certain combinations that get played to bring up barbarians. Like if you play 3 yellows, you're attracting this barbarian group or something like that. You know what I'm saying, TC? Like I think they can be tied to this system. I don't think they need these dice that are rolled at the beginning of the round because it pulled me out of the experience. The other thing that pulled me out of the experience was the actual dice combat in the game. I think that also needs to be tied to like the cards that you have. I think that there's just it's too rich of a card system for them to leave it so bare bones and then rely on rudimentary dice structures from like 10, 15 years ago. Like, because in this game, you roll a handful of dice and you're looking for hits. There was one fight when I had 2 guys and they were up against 6 of an opponent and I won the fight. And it was just like, ooh, story time. Let's tell this story about those guys. And you know what that reminds me of, TC? You know what game you tell stories about how these 2 guys sat there and defended this province, you know, this area from a huge opposing force? Risk.
Oh, don't even go there. Don't. No.
That's where it comes in.
No, I'm going to argue this one to the ground on you because Washington's War also uses a dice battle system, but the brilliant thing about Time of Crisis is everything is mitigatable in the game if you can anticipate it. Like you said, the barbarians are moving around and all that. The barbarians are mitigatable. I mean, if those guys had built basilicas, I don't know what I think that the basilicas.
Limes?
No, the limes. The limes come down.
Limes affect them so that they don't attack the first turn that they come, but they're still there, and you still have to deal with them. It's just that they aren't going to hurt you your first turn. You get like a buffer turn.
Even if they do, you could have like an army of like a 4 barbarian army in that province. If you don't deal with it, it's just going to hit you for a -1. Doesn't matter how many guys are in that province. You're just going to go down 1.
You can, and you can also tribute them. Like there are things the game lets you do. You can actually recruit barbarians to your cause. You can tribute them.
Yeah.
I like those parts of the game, TC. I like the fact that barbarians are there.
When you defeat like a barbarian leader, not only you have a choice, you can either get a discount to the next card color, or you can go up 1 in your support in that region.
But you have to be able to still roll successes. And like in the game that I played with the elusive Nate, who's been a guest host on here before, he had 2 barbarian leaders in his region and 3 consecutive battles. In the first one, he took out 0 people. In the second one, he took out 1. In the third one,
how much army did he have?
Over. He had 4 guys. He rolled 4 1s, 2s, and 3s.
Well, that's the tides of war, dude. That's the way it goes.
See, that's that right there. You're a war gamer, TC. That statement right there is like, you're a war gamer. You're all right with that. You're gonna be like, oh, that's just the way it happens. It happens.
Like, okay, Kemet. I played Kemet. Kemet's great, except that battle system is utterly predictable. It is utterly predictable because I know going into a fight with someone, the highest card they have is a 5 plus whatever plastic monster they have might add 2. If I go in there and I just like hammer it, then they're going to be gone and I get a victory point.
But it's not predictable because you have those little cards that you hide underneath. And that's
that they may add like 2 or 3.
Yeah, exactly. But it's not like, it's not just, oh man, I've got 2 guys. Can I fight this 6-guy force? No, you're dead. You're screwed.
Dude, why don't you just have like a base number and then you roll on top of it?
Andy's with TC. He doesn't like the Kemet aspect. Wow, he doesn't like the fact that the battles in Kemet are very like predictable, and that's what I love about Kemet. I was actually going to mention we have games like Kemet. We've moved on.
Great.
Kemet exists.
Kemet's great. I like Kemet. Kemet, I mean, it's fantastic. I mean, I love the big monsters and everything, but it's my same problem with Scythe. It's a predictable battle system. It's like, oh, you do the dial.
Scythe is way more predictable than Kemet, though.
Yeah, Scythe is like you just wait for someone to have a battle and you're moving right after them.
Yeah. Well, I don't think I like the perfectly predictable battles either. I mean, Trent's just put that in the comments here. I mean, we're not letting him get a word in here. Maybe Trent, maybe you can speak for yourself. What do you mean when you say you don't like perfectly predictable combat?
Well, you mentioned like in situations you just know you're going to win at Kemet. It doesn't matter what card they put down. I don't really. That's not as enjoyable to me.
I don't think that's ever happened to me in Kemet. I mean, I can see it happening, but like you're able to just do so much damage by the cards that you have underneath, by the card deck that you've got different values that you're adding.
It's random from a card. What's the difference between a random card draw and a?
It's not random though. You're choosing, like your opponent chooses that, and you choose your card too. I mean, it's choice. Not everything is known. So, I mean, like you've got an amount of like unknown information from your perspective, but you have control over the system. You have control over your own system.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I could give that to you. I mean, I'm not gonna. It is just a moot point. I mean, that's fine. But I mean, you know, that's when they said. Let me get back to what you said about streamlined. And what I mean by streamlined is, I mean streamlined from a war game. Like I'm used to playing like a war game where you have chits and like have all these numbers and you roll and you consult charts and you're like, okay, they're going to do all this stuff. And in the design notes for Time of Crisis, they were real specific that the designers wanted to make it teachable so you can learn it while playing, that it can be played in 2 hours. And they actually stripped a bunch of that system out for this, you know, just rolling its success. And I like the bursting sixes. I loved it ever since Chaos in the Old World. I love going around as Crom and just eating people.
I remember telling that to our chat group. I was like, it feels like this has got a little bit of Eric Lang in it here.
Yeah. When I saw those bursting sixes, I'm like, Crom! Corn! Hell yeah! But again, you know, that's just the nature of what it is. It's a GMT game. I like the unpredictable. I like going in. And I really like the fact that even if you can't handle the barbarians, it's not like those three things are going to hit you all at one, and it's like a -3. It's a -1. It gives you could even bring up your, like if you're at 1, you could like play the 2 to bring up the 2, then it goes back down to 1. You know, you could it's mitigatable. It can hit you, but you can mitigate it.
Yeah, I understand. There are things you can do to mitigate. Yeah. There was a question earlier here in our chat about whether or not Trent had a chance to play Time of Crisis. I can't speak for Trent. I know that there was an actual crisis that happened when we tried to play Time of Crisis.
Yeah, I have not actually played it yet, other than to set it up and go through the playthrough in the rule book, basically.
Yeah, which the rule book is great, right? Paragraph 1.7.5.63 subsection A. Mm-hmm. Nice job, Murr. Like that comment too. So. Anyway, I thought the rulebook was great, actually, TC. I didn't, we've only played it once, and all the things that you've mentioned you did wrong. Not to toot my own horn or anything, but no, it's just, it has a really good playthrough.
Yeah. And the play mat has everything you need to do. Just follow it.
It does. All those, even like corner cases.
Difficult. It's procedural. It's not complex. It's procedural.
There's a lot of words
follow
on that
everything.
Player mat, though. That player mat is like a Bible of just small text. It is, but yeah, I think we've given a really good overview of Time of Crisis. I think after your 5 games, from a wargamer's perspective, you are loving this. In general, I love the system here. I love the things that are new, and I go back to just the things that feel old to me really stick out like a sore thumb with how much I like the rest of it. So I'm not crapping on this game. I don't want anybody to think that. Like that's like I'm totally gonna see this again and see how it goes, but like. It wasn't me that was dealing with the randomness. Mm-hmm. Like, I won our game, but it was like the randomness chose me. I felt like I was like favored, and I was like, well, you know, like divine right and all, but I'm sorry, I want to earn this.
The reason that kind of gets me is like one of the big things when I was really hot on my Churchill playing it. The biggest thing I ran across that was like, oh, well, you move your army. It goes up when you have to roll a dice to see if you succeed or not. And that's just random. I'm like, no, you can completely mitigate that by throwing a ton of support and doing a double block through and just go straight past it.
I agree with you in Churchill. I agree with you. The way that the dice are handled in that game they don't bring up me with like issues and stuff. Yeah. I don't have an issue with Churchill. I even like Twilight Struggle has pretty high stakes dice rolls. There's not many dice rolls in that game, but the ones that there are can be pretty high stakes. But here it's just you're rolling a lot of dice, but it's just those events and stuff. I don't know.
That's a lot of dice. Have you played Field of Despair? No. And then the fact that when you take damage, your legions actually have to take 2 hits before they go away, right? So you're not, even if you take like, oh, these barbarians hit me for twice, and I have a 3 army, just 2 of them are going, they're getting strained. They're not completely going away. And you just have to, like, building a legion isn't that hard. You just got to go 1 up to the next one you want. You know, so it's not that
making bigger, like the bigger forces are going to be like I think it balances well. I like the way that it's done. I like it when you can do a little bit more to mitigate though than this system is like. I just don't like systems that involve like it's always like this is how many chances you get to roll hits. I like it better like Mare Nostrum where you just roll this entire pool and then you add up all your points. Clash of Cultures did this, but I didn't like it as much because of how high stakes they were and how late they came in the game and how they usually just pick the winner. Mare Nostrum did it where you had these normalized dice that were like 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 6. So you didn't have any ones or something like that. I obviously that's not right. There was like there was way too many 4s, but you knew that like if you went in with 2 armies, you're guaranteed 2 hits. Or guaranteed 1 hit, and you would only get 2 in like 1/6 of the option, 1/6 of the time. So I mean, you're really able to be a little bit more intentional. Here, you come in with this big old force, and then it's just like my force of 4, which I spent so many actions to get, just got taken out by your 2 guys, or you guys won the, like I didn't totally eliminate you. You got as many hits as I did. You're the defender. You win that. I get expelled. And it's like, it felt like risk.
Well, you get expelled out of your, let's see here. If you're going after someone, you just get expelled out of the capital, correct? And
but like, they get a point, though. They get a point for beating you. So that they like, or 2 points. They get 2 legacy points for beating you. So you can literally give your opponent 2 points by coming at them with a force of 4 units, 4 legions even. Roll really crappy. Roll all 1s and 2s, which if you disagree with me, talk to Nate. Talk to the elusive Nate. His rolls were crap in our game. And anyway, he was just walking around with big forces, getting his butt whooped and giving points. And he never got many points because he was always getting his butt kicked in. He was getting his teeth kicked in by the dice.
Well, then go to Rome. You do a political action. Screw it. Take your army to Rome.
Right. The political part
take Rome over, get like 8 points. Or throw down a pretender empire and screw Rome, man. I'm going to get all these points now.
There are things you can do. You're right. And those are going to come out as we play more. I've only played it once. Take my stuff, everything I've said with a grain of salt or a grain of sand.
And I'm gonna give you a confession, Joe. I'm gonna confess. My favorite battle system doesn't use dice at all.
No.
It's Dune. Dune is my absolute favorite battle system of all time because you're looking at someone straight in the face and saying, how much are you going to lose to fight me and how much you want to keep? And it's just, oh, that is so wonderful.
Yeah. Oh, shoot, man. Hey, bye, Tony. This is Tony that you guys play with, isn't it, Trent? He's been in the Trent comments from the beginning. I was so confused. I thought that Tony was somebody else. By the way, bye, Tony. He's taking off. All right. Trent, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I was going to say, yeah, I like Dune. If you're unfamiliar with Dune, the combat system is a variant on Scythe, and I think a better variant.
A much better variant.
But if you're thinking Scythe, you're kind of in the ballpark of how Dune works.
Yeah.
Wow, and I thought you hated that, TC.
Well, Dune, you have a pile of chits that's your army. It's like 6 and 7. And you're putting on your dial how much you're gonna how many of those are gonna die. And then whoever rolls the highest wins, but they lose that amount of troops. So you could literally win the game, win the battle, but all your troops are gone and no one controls the region.
Yeah, that sounds like the type of battle that makes both people love each other.
Yeah, and then you throw these little cards, that shields and guns and leaders, and you have a betrayal card. You're like, oh, I have the guy who you're attacking with. You automatically lose, or you have the right combination where everyone blows up. Oh, Dune's so good. I miss Dune.
I'm actually surprised that. Yeah, you know what? Have you ever played Sekigahara? Because that's got
I love Sekigahara.
That's a cool combat system in my opinion. That's one of my favorites right there. I think that game it's really long for what it is, but that's a cool combat, really unique.
Yeah, that is one of my favorite block games aside from Triumph and Tragedy. But Cigar is really, really, really good. That's one of the go-to games me and Carissa go to quite a bit.
Yeah. Oh, it's really cool stuff. And Andy's right. Andy, by the way, says to me and to Nate, who's not here, but we'll talk to him anyway, to roll better and hire better generals, apparently. Thanks, Andy.
Plus betrayals.
yeah, why not? All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and move on. I'm going to do boy, these reviews are just so intriguing to me, and we're giving these games a long time here. We're almost doing the long view of these games.
Well, that's why I wanted you for a co-host.
So moving on here, I'm going to tell you guys about A Study in Emerald 2nd Edition, which is different than the 1st edition. Anyway, if you are playing A Study in Emerald 2nd Edition, it's one that I've had a chance to play a few more times since I've talked about it a little bit before with Jeff Gamble, the long view, and I did a little post Origins episode with him. Anyway, the idea here, it's based on a Neil Gaiman book, but really it's less about the Neil Gaiman and the Cthulhu and the Sherlock Holmes, which is what this little short story by Neil Gaiman is about. And it's only 9 pages. You should read it. It's a nice little poop read, and you all know what I mean. Anyway, the thing is, it makes for great. It's a great one session read. Anyway, the thing about it is, in the game, you are controlling you have a deck, and you're going to be adding cards to that deck by auctioning off cards on the player on like these 9 different stacks, and then you're going to be spending your influence cubes, which are kind of like your resource, but you have to play cards for actions to do that. And so it's all tied to the cards that are in your deck, and you spending them to then make bids, and then you spending cards then as an action to claim your winning auctions at the beginning of your turn. And these cards are going to be worth points. They're going to be worth actions. They're going to let you put these figures out on the board that are in different cities around the board and allow you to advance your cause, because you're on one of 2 teams in this game. You either want to kill the royalty, or you want to kill the players who are trying to kill the royalty. And this is because the game actually originally branched from a game about anarchists. And it was not originally about like Cthulhu and not Cthulhu. It was just that the theme worked a lot better with Cthulhu, because otherwise it seems like a game that's really about assassinating the government.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a sensitive topic. So making the government Cthulhu actually made the theme work. Whereas like if it's just like, here, kill, if they made it like modern times, like you're trying to kill like actual, oh my goodness. That would be really, really bad. Anyway, yeah, it's all about assassinating, though. It is really, it's A Study in Emerald's all about assassinating players that are trying to assassinate royalty, if you're on the royalty team, or assassinating the royalty and doing that at the most opportune times. If you, Andy wants the old theme. Good grief, Andy. Good grief.
Hang on,
oh boy. Anyway, it's all about correctly gauging the right time to reveal what team you're on. It's okay to reveal yourself as being on the team that wants to kill the royalty, as long as you've already got the tools that it takes to continually pump out assassinations of royalty or get points in other ways. Because as soon as you reveal yourself, other players that are not on your team can just start trolling you, following you around, and they won't let you do anything. They'll eliminate you from the board, and you won't be able to do anything. And that's something that is just crazy, because here's how the game ends. You will all reveal your team, and then whichever team had the player in last place loses 5 points.
Oh,
and
5 points? That's a
5
change.
Points, it's the new change. Yeah,
Okay.
2nd edition, because you win this game in a 5-player game, which I highly recommend. Play this game with 5 or maybe 4. I like it best with 5, though. It's one of the few games that's like 5 is perfect, because you don't know. You know there's at least two people on your team, but you don't know who's that third person exactly. And it just really, oh goodness gracious, man, it can be really intense. Anyway, because you're going for that, for these like kind of hidden goals, there's also some other things to kind of, you get points off of just regular cards and stuff, and you can up these tracks. And the thing I think is cool about the tracks is that it counts as points for your entire team. So like if you got a player that you just think is sucking, and you're like, oh my goodness, you're on my team, aren't you? Oh boy, come here, pumpkin. Let me help you out. You gotta like up your team track, because otherwise they're gonna lose, and they're gonna make you lose 5 points. And if you lose 5 points, it is difficult to win this game. It can still happen, and I've seen it happen where the losing team had the winning player, but it's not very frequent. here's what I think about this game. This game works. It does something really interesting, and I'm always so pumped to play it because it's got so much intrigue packed into it. Everything that you're trying to go for, it works, but it's so unique. And from what I understand, the first edition had so much uniqueness that it literally would sometimes come to like an almost immovable game state. And especially if players are really focused on winning. But the second edition, they fixed those things. And I think I'm probably the second edition crowd. And I know that I might be in the minority because so many people that like the first edition like it for how unique it was, how interesting it was. But man, to me, the second edition is just, I really, really did. I've been just having an absolute blast. And what do you guys think?
Well, I'm happy. I don't care what edition you play. Just play the game. That's where I stand on it. And does it still have the Cthulhu event card where if you trigger it, like a city just gets blown to pieces?
Yeah, it just every single thing gets removed from the city, just completely. Two
of my favorite cards in board gaming ever is the Catastrophe card from Dominant Species. Everybody knows they better grab that sucker before me because it's going to be bad. It's going to be chaotic and bad. And the Cthulhu card, and when they see that, they're like, if we don't get this, TC's going to get it, and everybody's going to get madness. Everyone goes, oh, his parish just blew to pieces, and we went insane. And one of the losing conditions is like if someone goes insane. Is that still true for the second edition? Like if
it's so cool. I love that. Like if you're on one team and you go insane, you shoot yourself, so the game immediately ends. But usually that means you're going to win. Usually that means you're going to win because the things that you usually have to lose your sanity for give you points. And thanks, Mur. It's so awesome to see. I'm not the only second edition. Second edition, baby. And yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, because when you're trying to assassinate the monsters, insanity's you can't take so much madness. But if you're protecting the Cthulhu people, you can take more, and that's a trigger to know what team someone's on. If they're like, shouldn't you be insane by now? Oh, I know what side you're on.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, you flip. Well, you're supposed to flip it over, and then you get like a special ability. I think what's funny is the first time I played this, I gave David in our group, who's here in our chat here, I gave him a special insanity roll where I poorly explained the rules so that he didn't know how to do assassinations. And he was on my team, so it ended up preventing me from being even close to winning. But it was the actual insanity rule, like the one that I made up.
And here's the deal. I mean, it seems really easy if you're like, you really want first edition, but you can't get second edition. It doesn't sound like it's that difficult to actually implement first edition rules with the second edition.
No, I think that the only things that you're going to find hard to do are specifically like a lot of the cards were rewritten to maybe less game, less gameplay. I don't know, less unique effects, but more like functional effects.
That's fine. It's like just play it. I don't care. I don't care what edition you're playing. Play it.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. Trent, is the thunder going to join in on this podcast? I think our listeners are wondering.
I don't know. It's very noisy here. That's all I'm going to say. I keep flipping off my mic because the thunder is so loud.
It's pretty, is your house shaking right now?
Yes.
I think Trent has had the Cthulhu card played on his house, and he's just currently waiting to like sink into a hole in the middle of the ground. Kind of like Michael Cera did in the movie The End, or This Is the End, something like that. If you ever saw that wacky movie. Anyway, that's one of the games that I can point to and say, I totally know why this game isn't a ton, just hugely popular. I can see like this game is just so unique. And to me, it fires on all cylinders because of that. And it makes me like feel like I'm a fanboy of this game. And I don't know. I guess I'm probably a fanboy way more than I acknowledge, but like when I see that this game is so low, like its rating is, I want to say it's in like the second edition's even lower. It's like in the top 1,500 games, I think. Anyway.
Really?
Yeah, it's super low, dude. I want to say it was somewhere around there. I should obviously have this. Like I gotta check it right now. It's
941. It's not even the first edition's 530. Holy crap! Hey,
yeah,
Trent,
the first edition.
Trent, have you played this at all? Do you know anything about Setting Emerald?
Yeah, I played it with Joe. once. I played first edition a long time ago, but I barely remember it.
Well, what did you think? I mean, kind of quiet. Usually when you're quiet, you're like,
I'm quiet because I keep flipping my mic off.
Yeah, he's dealing with the apocalypse right now.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. The game I played was won by a bluff, basically.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty crazy, that game, yeah.
That was thoroughly enjoyable, but it felt to me like it was a deck building game.
I can see that, yeah.
What I want to say is this. It was a good game. It didn't shine to me as a great game. The thing I most enjoyed about it was the player interactions.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
That kind of sums it up. I would happily play it again. I'm not in a rush to put it on my shelf.
Mm-hmm.
It was one where I felt like very quickly the game backed away, and it felt like a lot of player interaction. And that's what I enjoyed about it.
Sure, yeah, it really is. That's what's cool to me is that you've got two different types of interaction here. You've got somebody who's on your team who you don't want to be in last, and you have all these other players that you're like, are they trying to kill me, or should I be trying to kill them or them? And it's just, to me, it's the secret goals, the more that I play it, seem to be like I'm realizing how they actually do work.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
All right, well, that segues us here into our topic, which is the games that our favorite games that are not in the BGG top 500. So, Trent, why the BGG top 500? What do you think it means if you see a game like, I feel like the BGG top 500 is most of the games that are in that have probably at least 1,000 reviews of an average of like at least a 7, maybe 2,000 reviews of at least a 7, somewhere around there. You've got, you got two different types of games here that might not make it in the BGG top 500. You got your games that have a low average, like a lower average rating, or you've got your games that have a high average rating but very few plays. What do you think is significant about that?
I think you've got games that are just wholly underappreciated, meaning they haven't got a lot of reviews, or games that have gotten bad reviews by people, but other people see something in them that the masses do not.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got two different types of games there.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, which one do you think were you mainly focusing on? What do you like? Because the Study in Emerald, to me, like, it has an average user rating. Like, it's got at least a few thousand people that have at least given it a shot. Do you think what type of games came to your mind as like, a game that is wholly underappreciated?
Well, I mean, I named two right off the bat. One of them was New Angeles, which is a negotiation game by Fantasy Flight from last year. I think part of the reason it was it's still not even in the top 1,000. And I think part of the reason for that is that a game that's like a 2 to 3 hour long negotiation game isn't going to get the mass appeal thing going on. But I think it's a great representative of the type of game that it is. I mean, it's really a negotiation game. That's what it is.
Uh-huh.
I think another thing that hurt that one is it came out like in December, like out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I like that one a lot, and I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be a great game." And it's just like it just disappeared, and like no support from Fantasy Flight. I was like, "Okay, well, I like it."
And the other one the other one I mentioned was Arkwright, which I think it's outside the top 500, and I think that's out of it because of weight. I think it's very hard for a game with like a 3.5 or above weight on Board Game Geek to crack the top 500, simply because not enough people will commit like 3-4 hours to playing a game, and that's beyond the learning of the rules of it. I think just there's a lot of people that don't want to do that. So games like that are rarely going to accumulate enough votes to get up there.
Yeah, I feel like they need like some sort of a hook, some sort of a comparison, something that like, for example, when I look at the games that are on the BGG top 500, I see like 2 of the top 3 are fairly heavy rated games. I mean, like most of the top 10 is fairly heavy rated games. Like Through the Ages is rated, I think, at 4 point something.
Yeah,
4.32. So I mean, it's got a high rating. I mean, you got like what do you think though about like 18xx games? Why is 1830 played by so many people? Why is that like the go-to? Do you think it's
1830?
Yeah.
1830 was published by Avalon Hill. That's the one that got the widest distribution, as far as I know, and that's what set it all off.
I think there's more copies of 1830 floating around out there than probably all other 18xx's combined.
So is it a publishing thing then? Is it that the publishing the publishing lines of this game, the avenues that they've chosen to publish it through just are insufficient for the actual what the game deserves? Is it a community?
Are we talking about just 18xx in general?
Well, I'm using that as just kind of a lens, I think, to look onto all of these games that we're talking about.
I think the more copies there are of games out there actually in players' hands, the more likely they are to creep up on the ratings. That's not entirely true because, I mean, you think of games like Monopoly and such, but I'm referring more to like ones that are like above a weight of 2. I think once you reach a certain point, a lot of it, I hate to say this, has to do with marketing. Can they get the game out on the shelves, and can those games get into players' hands? The more that happens, I think a lot of gamers will play a game. If it's halfway decent, it'll go get a 7 or 8 on Board Game Geek. Eventually, it'll rise up the ratings. I think there are handfuls of exceptions to that. I actually think Through the Ages is an exception to that.
Food Chain Magnet is like 26 on BGG.
Yeah, but I think a lot of those were heavily championed. I mean, you have a handful of them that were just heavily championed by a few influential people, and it went from there. I think Food Chain Magnet is an example of that. I think that was a game that was really, really hyped. It was one of the first games that I felt Heavy Cardboard really pushed the popularity of, was Food Chain Magnet. I think without that platform, it may never have really caught on as much. So I think therethere's a marketing element to the top 500.
Yeah, I agree with that. I totally do. I think that there's also just a certain amount of like, a hook, a hook to, sometimes some games will do it with gameplay. Some games do it with theme alone. Like why is Star Wars Rebellion rated so highly? Why is anything with the name Star Wars? I wonder how many things with the name Star Wars fall below the top 500 that don't have some sort of a mass market game attached to them, like Risk or, well, I guess Star Wars Risk is probably even the top 500, but like a Star Wars Monopoly or Star Wars Sorry or something like that.
Well, I mean, I think a license will definitely help get a game attention.
Yeah,
I absolutely agree with that. I think if you take the Star Wars license out of Rebellion, it's not in the top 100.
I would agree with that one.
Not that I'm saying it's a bad game. I'm just saying that part of it is that the appeal of the theme gets people to play it that wouldn't have otherwise ever played it.
For the amount of money Fantasy Fight is paying for that license, it better get the appeal that the attention that it's garnering, because I guarantee you that license is not cheap.
Yeah, that's probably a higher cost per copy than most of what we're used to. So, yeah, I think though, what did you tend when you, because I went through the top, like, I want to say I went through the top 2,500 games on BGG. I also just went through every game that I had rated, because, that's usually an indication of whether or not I've played a game. And obviously I tried to go through most of my plays too. Like what currents did you see, Trent, in types of games that you were kind of looking through? And we've also got a lot of specific like games that were mentioned by our community. Like what about the 18xx games? Why is 1846, which can be like a 3 to 4 hour game, why is it still like not even heard of compared to say 1830?
Oh, 1830 has been around a lot longer. The community uses it as a touchstone and has so for many, many, many years.
Yeah.
Like, whereas 1846 really hasn't had a mainstream published version until about a year ago.
But I feel like Food Chain Magnet came out a year ago as well, and that's like, top 25 games, and that was also pushed by Heavy Cardboard, which Heavy Cardboard very, very heavily pushed 1846. Like, they mentioned that as probably the best, like, learning game, with things going on.
But it's a reprint. Food Chain Magnet was not a reprint; it was new. I mean, I was watching someone play. I can't remember what 18xx game it was. Literally, the rule book was these are the changes to 1830. This is what you need to know to play the game, and it didn't include the rules for 1830. It was literally these are the changes from 1830. Play the game. So yeah, 1830 is this. I think it's just the cornerstone of that whole system. I mean, it was published. God, I need to get these Andy and all these guys on here, but I think it was like published in the 70s. It's got a lineage to it, and it's got a really strong base of players that like to play it. And I also hear that is the one game to play the bank's big enough that you can try all kinds of crazy strategies like manipulate. I even heard like the train track system of that is incidental to manipulating the market in 1830.
Yeah,
which it's got me pumped to try the thing.
Yeah, there's I think we've got some interesting. If you guys check the comments, because Joe Wiggins has showed up. Hey Joe, and he says theme is why any game reaches the top 500 is that the theme alone sells it, and apparently FCM Food Chain Magnet has that theme.
1986 for 18. Yeah, I don't know when these games came out. All I know is that the 1830 had an Avalon Hill reprint in like 96 or something.
1829 was the first, and 1830 was the first one that really made it big, because I think 1829 was mainly like you were kind of almost, no pun intended, but on rails to a certain extent. You were very, very much like trying to just make the best company. And then 1830 added the stock market and it emphasized the stock market. And I think that was really what turned it on to a lot of people. So yeah, it is. 1830 came out in 1986, what it did is it really kind of added an exploration that made it more than like a railroad company simulation, and made it a lot more about the idea of what you think of in an 18xx of like liquidating your stock to start a new company, ruining everybody else at the table.
And that they said Food Chain Manic has theme. I agree. I mean, when I first saw Food Chain Manic, I wanted to play it because it looked like it was Fallout the game. I mean, it was that 50s vibe to it, that 50s diner vibe, which I really enjoy. And I like that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I got a question here for Trent. Trent, we have both played the game Pret-a-Porter, which is one of the games that was listed in our discussion. Pret-a-Porter is a game about making like fashion clothing. And why do you think that game, that's a very heavy economic game. What do you think about that game made it so that it does not clock in the top 500?
I think the weight of the game plus the theme kept it out of the top 500. I think, and I'm going to say the same thing about Rococo. I think if you retheme both of those games, you could easily get them both with higher ratings.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, easily. Yeah. There was several times with Rococo, I'm like, hey, you want to play a game about dresses? No. I'm like, no, it's really cool. It's like Kill Sing is it. No, it's just like, oh, come on. You like fireworks? There's fireworks at the top of the building. Come on. Pew!
I like Rococo a lot, and I feel like I actually got my wife to play that game because of its theme. So I think that she really pushed herself because of it. And I think Rococo is pretty highly rated, but like Cottage Garden, for example, it's a game about gardening, and I think that just matches well. I think that the problem, I agree with you, Trent, that really where you see there's a dissonance between the people that are going to be drawn in by the theme and the type of game that they might expect. So what do you think currently, though? I mean, because when we played Pret-a-Porter, both of us played with our wives, and my wife just turned off. Like, I spent that game days. Oh man, I watched so many videos, read that horrible rule book, played a pretend game of two people, and then I showed it to everyone, and it just flopped for my wife, and that made it really difficult for me. What do you think, though, Trent?
Speaking of that game, my wife actually enjoyed it and said she would be very happy to play it again, and is annoyed that they're going to retheme it.
So now they're thinking about video game companies.
Yeah, she's like, I hate that retheme. Like, she almost asked me not to even look at the retheme. So anyway, she just thinks that it was like, my wife appreciates novel themes.
Mm-hmm.
Like when someone does something like, what's that, Parachlor game? She's like, that's just amazing. She didn't even really that interested in the mechanism. She's amazed by the fact that they made a game about clouds.
Isn't it Petrichor or something? Wasn't it about the smell of rain or something like that? Or a game about the smell of rain.
And then we held hands.
She is a scientist, though, right? She's a science teacher.
Yeah, just unusual themes really attract her. Something that's not like the themes that every game has. If it's something a little bit different, that usually is a big positive for her. Whereas for a lot of gamers, I don't know that it is. I think that, you look at the top 100 or 200 games on Board Game Geek, and there's a lot of homogenous themes. You feel a lot of the same things over and over.
Star Wars, Lord of the Rings.
Wars, yeah. There's major pop cultural themes, and then there's war games, and there's city building games. And
city building games tend to really, Set building games can just attract so many people because they have that historical, like, I think there's a lot of people that really do like this. Hey, I mean, you like the history is part of the draw, right? Especially for your wife.
Yeah, and they're just once you look at the top layer, there aren't many unusual themes there. There really aren't. Most of them fall into a few categories, and you've wiped out most of the top 100. I think it's hard to sell an unusual theme.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that, man, that the unusual themes can really hurt. And I think just in general, like unique games. Like, I'm going to mention A Study in Emerald. I'm also going to mention here what Andy and Joe Wiggins are talking about in our comments here, which is anything that, like, Phil Eklund has designed except for Pax Porfiriana. And that makes me question here, because there was a lot of the games that came in as our suggestions were games that have only been released for, like, you know, a lot of them were 2015, 2016 releases. You know, games that had not been around for very long. And I kind of wondered, like, where would you draw the line here, Trent and TC, about, like, when do you think a game should really have come into its own and be rated, you know, I guess higher and have, say, at least, you know, 500 to 1,000 ratings?
You mean in my ideal world? In my ideal world, it would take a little while for people to actually, like, play a game multiple times and then genuinely rate it. But that's not going to happen because so many people basically use the ratings on BGG for trolling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree that can happen.
I mean, like I don't know. That's such a loaded question for me because, you know, you hit the ratings vague, you know, 1 to 5. I've talked to people who rate on Board Game. Well, I rate a game of 5. It's really a 1. Well, okay, that's going to skew everything, you know, because other people. I know people who are like, it's a 7.6 and this is a 7.7. I'm like, okay, you know, and then you look at what they actually mean, and it's like, okay, that's vague. Yeah, and then you know, how many people are playing it, and then there's all these metrics and stuff, and I just whatever, you know. Like,
the designer didn't
holy
retweet
crap,
me.
yeah.
Jeez, Trent, what did you just say?
In the chat, I typed, the designer didn't retweet me, so I gave this a 1 rating.
I'm going to have to go do that later on tonight. I had 2 games today that I played that didn't get retweeted by the designers, even though I tagged them.
And then, you know, like games being in print can be huge. You know, if they can't get the game, they're not going to play it. So, you know, they're not going to rate it. I think it could be this. There's so many factors that go into that, and you know, and then you know, I remember the first time I heard about game weight. Well, what's the weight of this game? So I don't know, a few pounds. You know, like, right? I don't know.
Well, 22 if you're going to play Gloomhaven. That's what I played earlier tonight. It's the heaviest game I've ever run.
And then I hear, no, it's about, and then I asked what weight was, and I got like 8 different answers from 10 different people. I'm like, well, if we can't agree on a precise definition, then it's going to be vague. You know, what someone rates as a 5 in weight and has only played, like, I don't know, Uno, you know, is going to look at Here I Stand and just have a seizure.
Oh boy, Here I Stand seems to have actually a pretty similar combat system to the one that I can remember from Time of Crisis. That's one that Here I Stand is really highly rated. That was why I actually picked it up, and I got through the rule book. And what I did with Here I Stand was it took me like 40 pages to get to the combat, and then at that point, I put it up on my trade list immediately. It was like, I can see where this is going. Like, the examples they gave were like of really lopsided underdog victories, and I was like, oh no.
Well, a lot of the reason why Here I Stand is such a huge game is, I believe, I'll have to look into it, but I think one of the designers of Here I Stand worked on one of the Civilization computer games, and he was upset because religion didn't play a big factor in some of the earlier Civilization games. So he went straight to the age of Reformation with the Protestants coming up and designed that whole system in mind. So a Civilization game that actually reflected religious influence in the world. And I think because of that connection to that Civilization is the reason why that thing climbed up so high.
Bold prediction that I expect to get a reaction in our comments here and maybe from you guys. Here I Stand and its integration of the Protestant Reformation and religion has been replaced by Pax Renaissance, which does the same thing, and it does it in with all the same flavor, all the same depth, all the same content.
You're late to the party. You're late to the party. It's already been replaced with the Virgin Queen. They already streamlined it. Oh, did I say the streamlined word? Oh no! Oh no! I said it.
It's like 6 hours. Trent played Virgin Queen at HeavyCon, and how long did it take, Trent?
9 hours.
But
so yeah, streamline. Good old 9 hours streamlining. Now we're getting a little bit far from our topic, but yeah, sorry about that. Sorry about my digression there. The main games I saw echoed a lot were Fleet. Fleet is like, it's interesting. I feel like Fleet is a game that, had it not come out with an expansion, I wouldn't want it to be in the top 500, because the game itself is pretty, I don't know, it's pretty basic, but it has one of those expansions where you mix and match little pieces and each thing's a little mechanism, and it kind of reminds me of the way Ethnos works, and I think it's really cool. And it makes me want to see it in the top 500, but the game is really basic, and I think, Trent, you had a comment about Fleet being not in the top 500.
Yeah, I felt that much the same way as you, that it's a game that deserves to be higher than it is, but it's mostly because of the expansion, which is excellent. It's a great expansion. My only complaint about Fleet, and I still hold this to a degree with the expansion, is it's one of those games that feels like it finishes around too early.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah. I wish it went just a little bit more. Because I feel like you get an engine set up and then it's over.
Yeah. As soon as you get it really going, as soon as you get like as soon as you max out like how many licenses you could get for something, and you finally get it so that all your combos are in place, it's like, all right, end of round, game's over.
Yep.
You know what? The Fleet I like, but I think what's holding that game back in particular, and this is something I ran into teaching the game a lot, is a lot of people don't like bidding games. They don't like it. And when you bid for those licenses, that they're like, oh, I don't like, no. I'm like, that a lot of people that I taught that game to didn't like Fleet because they didn't like bidding for those licenses.
Yeah. No,
I loved it. But
I thought it was I thought it was what made the game, elevated it for me a lot. Like the fact that these are these variable player powers and you're bidding over them, that's really cool. There's not many games where you get to bid over a new variable player power every round.
And I like it too, because basically you win the game by exhausting the environment. You overfish it and you're done.
Yeah, you should play New Bedford. It's it's swell. So next one, I'd like to give almost like a little bit of an award to one of our posters here, and I guess that I a lot of them to me seem like, well, there's this reason that it's not popular. There's this reason it's not popular. The one that to me seemed really interesting is Circus Train, because like this is a rank of 2,790, and that just like there's almost nobody that owns this game, and nobody's commented on it. But I've heard a very, very positive vocal minority that loves this game. And it's published by Victory Point Games. Either of you guys own any games by Victory Point Games?
Healthy Heart Hospital.
I own the one that's like it's chess, but it's a deck building game.
For the king or something like that?
Yep, I can think of the name of it. Yep.
Yeah.
But that's it.
What Trent said normally means the game is ending at the right time. I just got a chance to. Then the game is like one round. When it ends at the right time for Murr, it's sticking around. Trent's just getting into it. Sorry, I just catching up on the comments here. Circus Train to me though just seems really interesting, and I would highly recommend to everybody go check out this forum post, because the guy who commented on it does Bottom Shelf Board Game, and it's like this video series which are incredibly well produced videos, and he's done the likes of like Twa, some really, really popular games, and Circus Train, he's putting this among a very elite few. So somebody's opinion who I've come to really appreciate through Bottom Shelf Board Game reviews on YouTube. Very, very cool. You should check out Circus Train, and I want to check it out too, because it's like man, just who it's coming from kind of, and also like it's a really unique theme. You're like making a circus train go around, and it's got a lot of mechanisms there to back it up. Looking down the list, anything else you guys are gravitating towards? I see somebody maybe threw on Conquest of Paradise.
Yeah, but I have one that's going to top it, because I don't want everyone to think I'm just a GMT fanboy.
Mm-hmm. What do you think about? We got somebody says Circus Train is really good. They own it and love it. Murr owns it and loves it, though he hasn't played it in a year after what we simply call the incident. happened with my wife. The incidents in quotation marks.
Okay, and also I see L. Joe Wiggins says Healthy Heart Hospital is bad. I had the unique experience of actually playing that game with a doctor, and it was so funny watching a doctor not be able to triage patients in an emergency room and watching it. It's like, shouldn't you be better at this?
Shouldn't you be better? Oh man, I've never tried Healthy Heart Hospital. I've steered clear of it so far. It sounds like in Circus Train, getting your clowns taken is a thing. Man, I gotta play this game. Anyway, other games I'm seeing on our list here, I see some very interesting. Valley of the Kings. What do you think about that, Trent? That's not in the top 500. I've played this one with you and your wife once again. For some reason, me and you and your wife, Trent, always play games that are not in the BGG top 500. I don't know why this is. But Valley of the Kings.
I think it's a good deck building game. I think a lot of people that enter deck building games look it over and didn't even see it as a deck building game because it's in a really tiny box. I think when people list deck building games, they don't think of a tiny box game and it just doesn't get thought of, which is a shame. I honestly think they should bring out a big box version of this with all three of them in it and maybe a 4th edition and like have it in a full size box so people will appreciate it more. Because I think it's overlooked for the size of the box.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and it seems kind of weird to have a deck building game in such a small box. It makes you wonder, like, how much deck building are you actually doing? I don't think that that's necessarily fair, but I can get that. I also see Neue Heimat, which is getting, I believe, getting a capstone reprint, if I heard that through the grapevine correctly.
That is true next year.
And that's an auction game that'll get hopefully to a little bit of a wider audience. Though I found that several of the capstone games that I really, really like. Three Kingdoms Redux, obviously, probably the game that most deserves to be higher, but has this, just an issue with a 3-player count is tough, tough to do exactly that. Anyway, the Haspel Connect is one that I was like, I'm shocked this isn't higher rated. This is like a perfect example of a Euro that has like a cool little hook and depth through like a variable setup of like technology and does a tech tree in an interesting way. I'm just, it's a really great game.
I know a person that said they wouldn't play it because it sounded too German.
What? Okay, sure. Yep. That's good.
That's all I'm going to say about it.
Wow. Because the name, because the name is Haspel Connect?
Yes. It sounded too German. They weren't going to play it.
Yeah, some people... Some people shouldn't. Some people should be vetted before they're allowed to be president of the United States. I'm sorry I said that.
Yeah, Valley of the Kings I really enjoy because that's the one where you have to bury your stuff to get victory points. Although at some point you've got to turn the corner in that game, like, well, I'm going to stop using this card. I'm going to bury it in my tomb so I can score victory points. I like that.
Yeah.
Instead of just having it in your hand and scoring, I like that little. Oh, and the pyramid that falls when you buy a card, the cards come down.
Yeah. Andy says he'd rather play Valley of the Kings over Dominion, which is an invalid statement since he still hasn't played Dominion.
No.
Anyway. Other ones I'm saying, Magic Realm. If David is still with us on our chat here, David, who's joined us in the last couple of episodes as a guest host, loves Magic Realm. He showed it to me, and it's one of those games where it's basically like fantasy plus your early Avalon Hill shit war game. Have you played it yet, TC?
No, I haven't. I'm working on it. I'm sure I got it somewhere.
That's one, man. That's one. I think that I'm actually gonna bring David on to do a Longview episode. I've already talked to him about it because he's like made his own print and play. He's got the old edition, the new edition. He's taught people to play it several different times. He's played in like 16-player groups, play by forum. I mean, it's one of those that has an incredibly supportive community. Very, very people that love that game. So, other ones, Versien das Volk. To me, like, it's similar in a way to Twilight Struggle. That means to me, like, I don't know that it'll ever get that high just because it's I really like Versien das Volk, but it kind of gives me some of the same feel I get from Twilight Struggle, and it's kind of the same idea. It's like Twilight Struggle, but within Germany, and it has a lot more to do with like building infrastructure and being able to maintain infrastructure. Let's see. Splotter. What's crazy is I think somebody mentioned earlier 3 Splotter games are in the top 500, which surprises me because they have such a limited distribution system in place. Like, it's really can be hard to get a hold of one of those.
let's see here. What's Arkwright rated? Is that in the top 500?
No, Arkwright is outside of it. I actually talked about that right at the beginning.
Oh, okay. Thought it'd be higher.
Yeah. Oh, one here on here, Trent. Somebody, you almost need to like tip these people. I'm sorry, I don't mean to force you to. Now you look like a bad person if you don't. But like they mentioned Kings of Air and Steam.
Yes, I think that's a very good one. That's one of my favorite pick up and deliver games, and
yeah, that's a solid one. Too bad Tasty Minstrel will never reprint it.
Yeah,
it's like, don't you think that's the best Scott Alms game, Trent?
Yes, without a doubt, it is by far his best game.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree with that. And every time I recommend that game, it's like you can't find it. That's the one thing that drives me up the wall with Tasty Minstrel games is that they hardly ever reprint their stuff. They're always on to the next Kickstarter, Deluxe, whatever.
Sure. One thing that's really interesting here, I see a game from AEG, which I wouldn't normally think of a company that doesn't do enough for its own games. I think they've usually got some pretty good pretty good setup. And that game is Automobiles, which was mentioned twice by commenters. Automobiles was like the third one in the trains, planes, automobiles line. And I never even heard of it, but now I see people.
Oh yeah, it's a bag builder, kind of like I prefer playing Automobiles over Orleans any day of the week.
Yeah, Automobiles is a lighter Orleans.
Okay, interesting.
That's how I would describe it.
Well, it's interesting. I really thought like Trick of the Rails would be on that guild somewhere. That's a really great trick taking game.
Too new.
And was that? Yeah, that's 2011. You'd think by this time it would be.
Trick of the Rails is 2011.
I think so. It's not that new, is it? I don't know.
Holy crap! Trick of the Rails. Didn't that just? I thought that just came out.
No,
you're right.
It's one of those games that's been around in Japan for a while. It just got printed over here.
Okay.
It just came to the United States. Okay, but it had been around. Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump on you there, PC. That's one that I never even heard of it until recently, and I know that I was like, if that game has been around for a long time, then it's Andy's fault we haven't heard of it.
I mean,
that game has probably been the most split opinion game in my house of any game ever printed. Some people love it. Some hate it. Yes. It's definitely like in our house, it's either loved or hated. That game is.
To me, it has, just like any trick-taking game, it has quite a bit of potentially, like, you look at your hand at the start of the round and be like, I've got a really good hand. And it just is a really good hand, and you don't make tons and tons of decisions. You can make some decisions, but I feel like a hand can occasionally feel like it plays itself.
It's fast enough that it's okay. I mean, whatever.
Yeah. I mean, you're just playing hands, but that's like any trick-taking game, dude. I was weaned on games upon games upon games of euchre, and euchre a lot of times, like my like family members would physically abuse. Okay. I don't want to go too far with this, but they would I'd get punched in the arm if I played the wrong card at the wrong time. Like just because based on what card should be played at what time in euchre based on what you got. So anyway, I get that. I'm not. Yeah, I didn't get abused. Just with a bag of dice when I was a young kid. That's why I hate dice.
Someone on the forums is mentioning Forged and Steel, which I think is very interesting because if you would have asked me a few years ago, Forged and Steel and Hands in the Sea both came out at the same time by the same publisher, and I went, Forged and Steel, no one's going to remember that one. Hands in the Sea is going to be the one people remember, and the complete opposite has happened with that.
I wonder if that has to do with how many actually came out, because Hands in the Sea was like a Kickstarter, wasn't it? And that one to me seemed like that one has a huge, very high user rating.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a retheme of A Few Acres of Snow. I think that's right. Yeah,
it's not just a retheme. It takes it to like the Roman Punic Wars, I believe.
Yeah, it does. I know it's the same base system as A Few Acres of Snow.
Yeah,
and people are just like all over
Different
Hands.
Designer.
Hands in the Sea, and like Forged and Steel was like it's coming out at the same time, and then everyone's talking about Forged and Steel, and I haven't heard about Hands in the Sea in a long time.
And just to mention here, I was gonna get around to it. I'm still going down our all of our forums, but we've got 2 mentions right now in our chat of Albin Viard, and Albin Viard games have yet to get the attention that they really deserve. They've got Albin Viard's games are really interestingly all kind of like they're kind of collected all in the same, like you can tell similarities between them when you play them. Like even his most simple game, like Card City, You look at then like Town Center, which is like, oh, this is Card City 3D. Then you play Small City, which is like, this is back to 2D, but there's more stuff going on and there's worker placement to it, and it's more economic. And then you play like Tramways, and it's like the same thing, where except now it adds like a lot more of Age of Steam with like Martin Wallace deck building to it. And then I've never played Clinic, but Clinic, whatever, Clinic.
It's
one that Clinique. You got a capital C at the end. Have you had a chance to play any Alvin Viard games, Trent? TC?
I played quite a few of them. My favorite is probably that's hard. I liked all the ones I played in different ways. Yeah, he's a really good game designer. I look forward to playing anything that he puts out. I was gonna say Tramways is my favorite, but then I thought about it. And I'm not 100% sure about that.
I haven't played enough Small City, man. Small City to me just had so many cool decisions, and it felt to me like it was just the I don't know. I felt like there was an ideal way to maybe play, but then there's been all these new maps and stuff. Like there's an ideal way to build your city, though the thing that's going to change every round is like what bonus you get. Anyway, I was really I was excited with it, and then it didn't gain much traction, which I think was like, it came at a weird time when Andy hadn't gone full on like masochist yet.
Masochist?
Yeah, that's Andy right there. He is the masochist in our group.
Oh, if Andy's listening, I have access to a copy of 1830, the Avalon Hill edition, that if we ever get together, we're playing.
I think that's what, didn't you guys go for that one, Trent? Didn't you just get one of those?
Which one?
1830 Avalon Hill.
Yeah, I just picked up a copy of it. I prefer that one because it's tighter to that. Not even having anything to do with the component issues of the Mayfair one. The Avalon Hill game is tighter, and I prefer it.
I just was an old beat-up Avalon Hill game. I was like, oh, yeah, if we ever get together with Andy, this is the one we're going to play.
All right. Well, any final thoughts here, guys? We've talked about quite a few games. I'm sure that we did not get to every single one that we should have.
Quartermaster General is amazing. It needs to be like highlighted and pointed out and lauded because that game is fantastic.
Is this a war game?
Yeah, but the thing about this one is like you're mostly worried about your supply lines.
Well, it's Quartermaster.
Yeah, it's all about maintaining nice big supply lines around the world and trying to disrupt other players' supply lines. It's really unique in how it works. It's really straightforward to learn. Lots of great decisions. I can't believe this game is, and it's produced beautifully. This game should be higher, and I don't know why it isn't. I just want to point that one out.
Well, I'm going to mention a game here that, since we're talking about this game, I just had to throw this out because I looked through all the games in my collection, and I wanted to throw one out here that was would catch everyone's attention. This one is ranked 3,707. Okay. And it was purchased because I went to a local game store and I said, okay, Kate, you can pick a game out. I don't care what it is. And Liam, you can pick a game out. I don't care what it is. Liam picked out Zombies Jr. And we're not going to go there because he likes zombies. And what's funny thing about Zombies Jr. is if you actually dumb that game down, it plays really well with a 7-year-old. And it works. So I was like, oh, I actually like this now. But yeah. She picked out this game called Wrath of Dragons. I'm like, what is this? And I look like this big dragon breathing fire. And I'm like, oh man, this is going to be the biggest dice chucking Ameritrash game you can imagine. But she picked it out. I'm like, okay, whatever. We'll try it. I took it to a game night so I could figure the rules out and play it with the group just so I could come back because Kate, my daughter, loves playing games, but she just has no patience learning it. She just wants to be told how to play it and play it. So I took it to game night and we played it, and it turned out to be a surprisingly good Euro game. And it was crazy. I'm like, oh my God. You're like, instead of like, it's called a resource destruction game. You like fly this little wooden dragon out and you gain resources and you eat a sheep to fly over and you can like level up your dragon. I was like, this is really cool. It's got these cool mechanics where you throw cards down. It's where you go. You can mitigate it. You can level your dragon up. I was like, wow. What? And I went and like Tom the Dice Tower did a review on it, and I think it just got really overlooked. The cover, I don't think does it any favors because it's totally not what the game is. But man, if you see this on a discount shelf for like $10, or you see it like on a game rental shelf, pick it up and try it out. I think you'd be really pleasantly surprised with it.
We may have lost Joe.
Oh, is Joe?
Oh, crap, dude. I'm talking right now. I was talking, and I had muted my mic so I could type really quickly into the comments. And now I just thought it was hilarious, man, that, like, that story cracked me up inside so many ways. I guess you guys couldn't hear me laughing, but I was like it turned out to be a Euro game.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Destruction.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, it is the most unique, craziest thing I've ever played.
Oh, you sold it to Murr. He's added it to his wish list here.
Yeah. But again, I want to emphasize, I was going in expecting absolutely nothing out of this thing. Like, oh, we're going to be a little dragon. It's going to be stupid. We're going to roll some dice, and you're going to roll some dice. It's going to be like Risk, but dumbed down. But I was like, no, what? What is this? What? Did this game come out of this box? Are you sure?
Yeah, that's crazy. All right. Any final thoughts, guys?
Nope.
All right. So let's go ahead. Let's tell the world what games we are excited about. Awesome comments there. Some awesome reminders there of everybody. But really quickly, I almost forgot. I'm not gonna lie. I did almost forget. There. We are now going to announce the winner of the game.
Oh, yeah.
Of Three Kingdoms Redux, which what I did is I just took everybody and I just put everybody's name in chronologically from the forum post. And anyway, I put everybody's name into a spreadsheet. Everybody got a number. I put in the range of numbers, random.org, and I just ran it once. And then it came up with somebody I didn't like, so then I ran it again. And then I had to run it 2 more times before it got to one of the people I was willing to. No, I'm just kidding. I ran it once. Come on. Everybody, I'm so happy to hear your responses here. I ran it once, and it came up with the lucky number of John Morris, who is going to be – I'm going to be contacting John Morris, and if it ends up not working, I've got here I'm not going to say anybody's name because I don't want them to feel like, oh, I might get a free game, but I ran it a second time just in case John here in case he doesn't get back to me. I'll give him a few days here to get back to me. Anyway, about where to ship it to and whatnot. I'll get that off in the mail to him. Anyway, thank you so much to everybody who participated. We had almost 50 people participate in this contest, and that's just an awesome number. I know I got messages from 2 different people who were like, yeah, I don't even worry about sending me the game. I just really was interested in the comments. I wanted to be able to share my favorite game, and you know what? I've already got Three Kingdoms, or you don't got to worry about sending it to me. So anyway, awesome discussion. Had a great bunch of games suggested here. Ones to put on our wish list, not the least of which is Wrath of Dragons, as has been pointed out. So anyway, now that we've done that, now we've got that business out of the way, and I'm so happy. Once again, thanks to Game Surplus. Thank you to Capstone for reprinting such an amazing game, even though it still needs to raise up. It needs to get the love it deserves. We all know it deserves more. Anyway, now moving along to our hypes. Let's go ahead and let's start it off with Trent.
Okay,
4X.
Yeah, so I'm going to talk about 4X, which is an upcoming game by Tom Russell. It's going to be published by his publishing company, Hollandspiel. 4X is basically a game about currency trading. Not a lot is out about it yet. There's a 3-paragraph description on Board Game Geek. But honestly, the reason I'm excited about this game is from everything I've heard about it, it seems to be a mix of container and Ponzi scheme.
Huh.
And that's got enough for me to want to play it. So,
holy crap, man. Wow, I have a hard time even putting all those things together.
Yep, that's what it kind of comes off like to me from the description. That's immediately what I was thinking of when I read it. It sounded like a mix of container and Ponzi scheme.
Nice.
So, yeah, I'm very much looking forward to that. So,
TC, anything?
Well, our group's still trying to get Pericles under our feet. We've been enjoying that one, so we're looking to more plays of that. In terms of new hotness, I am really wanting to get Lisboa. I want to play that a few more times.
Okay.
That one is I'm intrigued. I love typically I love games that punch me in the gut, take my breath away, and I have to go back and figure out what's going on. So I'm pretty excited because the first time I played that I came in last place. So I didn't get lapped. So that was a plus.
Yeah, it happens. Yeah, I feel like I'd be excited to try this one next time. So anyway, yeah, that would be Liz. You're excited to play Lisboa?
Oh yeah, I'm definitely gonna be playing that. Like I said, it's one of those games where I need to play that at least 6 to 10 more times before I can really come down on a consensus on it.
Sure. Yeah, I'm looking forward to, for my hype, to get Near and Far played. Now I'm almost like remorsefully admitting, like I don't know what exactly I was thinking, because I played Above and Below. I wasn't that big of a fan of Above and Below. I know there's a lot of people who really like Above and Below, but I was kind of turned off I was never intrigued by the way that the stories worked, and I feel like Near and Far tried to make those stories a little bit more cohesive and added some questionable duels between players. Anyway, though, I think that it's an absolutely beautiful game, and I'm so I almost want to just keep that game unplayed, so that way I can just keep on looking at those components and think positively about them, because I'm not sure how much I'm actually going to like playing the game. Anyway, more of a why did I buy this than a hype. And TC, are you still excited about playing Conquest of Paradise too?
Oh, I love that game. I love Conquest of Paradise. I own that one. Have you not played it? Would you like to play it? It's a good game.
Oh, you have played it? Okay. All right, cool. You had it listed here.
Oh, yeah. Conquest of Paradise is, if I just briefly, it's a very light, very quick 4X game. It has one of the simplest battle systems I've ever seen. It's like you roll a die, and typically you retreat from battle. Like you usually don't die, but you more than likely one force retreats, and you can turn your Polynesians into cannibals, so they're more aggressive in battle. I mean, fun stuff. You go exploring, and you can get your ship lost at sea because you go exploring too much. It is a total draw chits. Stuff happens. You build the map as you go, but it's really, really cool. I used to bring that game to Kate's board game group because they liked it. It was fun, and it's just unusual. Again, GMT games seem to be getting more streamlined, while these Euro games are going crazy in complexity. I would never have guessed that.
Yeah. That you can almost say that the GMT games are going full Sesame Street.
Well, yeah, probably.
Sorry.
It's funny. You look at the GMT top 10 sellers, and hardly any of them are hex battle games. They're like Thunder Alley is their number 8. Yeah, just Dominant Species is their number 4. It's their war.
You mean for their
top sellers. Games.
Oh, yeah.
There's hardly any traditional hex and counter games in there. That's good.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's that's what they got started on, but it really is it's the times that they've crossed over. I think it's because of how meticulous and how well they do their themes, their rule books, and everything. And I think it's because of the wargaming community and what it expects from a game. And when you get that same sort of attention to detail in a non-war game, it's really refreshing to somebody who's, will occasionally deal with really messy products.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, I see there's some more comments on Near and Far. Which one was the first? Was Above and Below the first one, or which one of those came first?
Above and Below, yeah.
Yeah, you were talking about that storybook. Was it just me, or that told this great story, and then the reward you got had nothing to do with what you read? It's you do this stuff, blah, blah, and you get a rock. Well,
yeah, you get a rock. Well, there was 8 different or 10 different resources, and they were all just so interchangeable. Yeah. And the only thing that it mattered for was the theme of the story. It was
it's what you got and what happened, just it never clicked. It was
no,
okay.
It just did not matter. Yeah, I was really disappointed with it. But anyway, I think Near and Far is going to do things a little bit differently. But from what I understand, the Shut Up and Sit Down review kind of made me a little bit I think I'll still find things to enjoy, but I'm not sure if it's going to be my style of thing. So it happens. Well, that's all of our hype games. So I highly suggest that anybody still listening to this podcast, go check out YouTube. You can watch the good old Sesame Street Near and Far with Grover's skit over and over and over, as I'm sure that that Andy and Burr might have been doing at some point. So anyway, it's been great to see these comments, and also congratulations to John Morris, winner of a copy of Three Kingdoms Redux, thanks to our sponsor, Game Surplus. And thank you all to all of you listeners for joining us for this episode of The Good, the Bored, and the Ugly. I am your host, Joe Sallin. I've been joined tonight by the guy who's always here with me, Old Faithful.
Trent Ham.
Went to see Old Faithful earlier this summer, right?
Yep. Sure
did. And then he who I'm going to be seeing quite a bit of, I think, in the near future here and just from here to come in on episodes of the Long View podcast, which you should totally check out. And his name is
TC. And yeah, anytime you want me on, just give me a holler. I don't mind. It's fun. I'll argue with you. I don't mind.
You bring a fresh perspective there, TC. You're totally committed to the war games, and that is a really interesting and fresh perspective that I love throwing back and forth. And I'm always just keep on going until I get somebody in the comments that says something like, somebody said something earlier about the dice, and like I'm just here to disagree with Joe because they know that if they say something like that, they're gonna hear like 20 minutes from me, like. Wait a minute. You can't just say that. TC, it's been an absolute blast. Thanks for joining me here, Trent, and all of you listeners. I hope you all have a great week of gaming, and catch us next week on The Good, the Bored, and the Ugly.